Would you join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I would like to read a statement regarding remote access participation. I wish to recognize that Board Member Bobby Jones is participating this evening via remote telephone access, as required by the Board of Supervisors electronic meeting policy and Section 2.23708.2 of the Code of Virginia. Supervisor Jones has provided notice that he would have to be physically absent from tonight's meeting due to illness. He has requested remote participation in tonight's meeting from his home in Rice, Virginia. His request is in conformance with the board's electronic meeting policy and the requirements of the Code of Virginia. Pending an objection from a member of the board, the remote participation of Supervisor Jones shall be approved and noted in the minutes of this meeting. And Supervisor Jones, can you hear me? Thank you so much. At this time, do we have any board member who has a conflict of interest? Not? Okay. If not, we will move to public participation. Public participation is an opportunity for you as citizens to give input on relevant issues, not the subject of a public hearing, and is not intended as a question-answer period. Mr. Stanley, do you have anyone who has signed up to speak?
Yes, ma'am. First, Mr. Robert Timmons, or Bob Timmons.
Mr. Timmons.
Just here?
Yeah, over there.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. I got him here tonight to talk about, to bring to the board an issue that we're having out on Darlington Heights Road at address number 5234 Darlington Heights Road. This residence is one that is just littered with trash all over the yard, blows out in the road, crossing the neighbor's property, and it's been going on for over a year now. I've been talking personally with Robbie Love to get this straightened out. He has told me he is sending letters out. He's also told me he's had the sheriff's department go out and take a look at it and try to get it cleaned up, but nothing's happened. The neighbors are continually calling me and fussing about wanting it cleaned up. The last 3 days last week, there was a semi-tractor parked in the front yard that ran 24 hours a day, basically, for 3 days, when people slept in the thing, with disturbing the neighbors. And I'm bringing it to the board tonight, asking the board to take some action to have this trailer, this area around this trailer cleaned up and make the people keep it clean, keep the trash and the garbage, just literally garbage bags just thrown out the front door and in the front yard. And then if a truck comes up, you know, they don't need to run that engine all night long, disturbing the neighbors around it. So I'm asking the board if they would look into that and take some action for it.
What's the address, Bob?
It's 5234 Darlington Heights Road.
And Mr. Timmons, you mentioned they have been there approximately how long?
A little over a year.
Oh.
It's over a year, but I've been working with Robbie for about a year. Ever since I went on the Board of Equalization, that's when I first started bringing it to his attention, which was back in March of last year. And let me put it this way, I don't know what he's done, but there's been almost zero results getting it cleaned up.
Thank you for bringing that to our
Okay.
attention.
Madam Chair, I just want to say we should be able to have a report for you the next meeting. One option could be the board could declare it a public nuisance if we're unsuccessful with the zoning ordinance. And of course, I think what happens is some of these folks will move a few bags and try to get it close to compliance and then slide right back. But the board may have another option we can take a look at, and we'll look at that between now and the next meeting and hopefully give you some guidance, and I can give Mr. Timmons an update.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there others?
Yes, ma'am. The next speaker is Mr. Ben Campbell.
Thank you. My name is Ben Campbell. I live at 903 Edmond Street here in Farmville, and I want to talk to you guys about the public schools tonight. As I'm sure you've heard, House Bill 63 has been tabled by House Finance Subcommittee number 3, which effectively kills it. And that was our chance to have a referendum to increase our sales tax to fund our schools. So in my mind, these turn of events have shown us a couple things over the last couple months. One is there's desire in our community to spend some money to improve our schools. But we've also seen that if we put all our hopes on one movement, it can be dashed. So I'm asking you as a board to take measures to find other ways to fund our schools, to fund capital improvements for our facilities, to increase the salaries for our teachers and administrators and other support staff. We can't just put all our hopes on a referendum to increase the sales tax, which we wouldn't even get any funds from for at least 9 months. So please, I'm encouraging you to look into other sources of revenue. Look into, for example, having a tax on plastic bags, which other localities in Virginia have done. You can do a 2-cent sales tax on plastic bags. We can use that revenue for schools and also for conservation efforts. I encourage you to look into increased lodging taxes if we can in the county. And I would even encourage you to revisit the property tax. You know, we reset property values and we changed the property tax rate. We need funding for our schools, and it's your job as a board of supervisors to figure out how to do that. And if we put all our hopes on just having a referendum to increase the sales tax, it might not work. Thank you.
Just a comment. We thank you for coming before us. Mr. Stanley, Supervisor Gilliam, Supervisor Townsend, and I attended Legislative Day on Thursday, which was great. We visited with Delegate Edmonds, and he was very upset about that because he had pushed hard. So he plans to take that to the Senate. We're going to continue working with that, but not only Delegate Edmonds, we visited other legislators who are going to work with us as well.
Many of us in the community have been calling these other legislators and asking them to remove this bill from the table and reconsider it to be sent to the whole Finance Committee and then out to the House or to the House. So it's not completely dead.
Yes.
But it could be. And what do
Okay.
we do then? I think we should start thinking about that now.
And you're right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Last speaker we have signed up, Madam Chair, is Jesse Zosko? Zanosko. Sorry about that.
It's fine, it's a tough one. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessie Zanosko. I live at 391 Timber Creek Drive in Farmville. And I just wanted to echo Mr. Campbell's sentiments. I wanted to thank you so much for your support in the public school system. And just, again, encourage you to think about different options that we might have. This is, as you know, as we've talked about over the last few months, how important the foundation of a great school system is, and it starts with the physical school. I've been working on having a cohort to keep teachers here in Prince Edward, and I've gotten some approval. I work at Longwood University, and so I've gotten some approval to create these cohorts to help keep young teachers here in the county, to hopefully get some steam and help this county grow. And so I think, with your support, continued support on this, and having, different ways of generating revenue for these, to fix the school is really important. To be honest, the school system is the only reason my husband and I ever consider leaving Prince Edward County. We have a 3-year-old, and it's just something that's really heavy on our minds, and I know other parents' minds as well. but we don't want to just abandon Prince Edward County. You know, we want to help fight to raise it up. And so I just want to thank you again. And yeah, I think we do, I agree with Mr. Campbell. We just need to, there's more than one way to skin a cat, so we got to think about that.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you all going up to Richmond and advocating. It means a lot.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
That's all we have signed up, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you so much. At this time, we will have comments from our Board of Supervisors, starting with you, Ms. Patty Cooper Jones.
Good evening, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure to see you here. And yes, I also talked to Delegate Edmonds on last Saturday. He said he was blindsided by that bill when they kicked it out. He said he was so angry he had to storm out so he didn't get himself into trouble. And Delegate Edmonds is a personal friend of mine. He assured me that he will try to bring it back through the Senate and that he fully supports Prince Edward County. And our schools are important because our children are gonna learn from what we're able to present to them and give to them. So it is important, and you have my full support for the school system.
Good evening, everybody. I agree with Ms. Patty Cooper Jones. I'm definitely for that school system. I was an English teacher in Prince Edward County for 22 years. Was an administrator for 13. And I'm gonna continue to work to make it the best place it could ever possibly be made. I privately tutor a student, and I love being involved with the school system. And we ask you for all of your support. Thank you for being here. Mr. Gillum.
I agree with the ladies, our children are our future, and education is a very, very important thing that we need to make sure all of our children are fully educated. Thank you all for coming.
Deborah.
I too, I want you to know that I am very much in support of our school system. My son attended there, graduated there, and has done very well. He is now a captain in the Air Force. So yes, I am very much behind this school, and I do welcome everybody, and thank you for coming in.
That's great. Jim.
And I'd like to echo pretty much what they're saying. I'm very, very much interested in having our schools be considerably better. And quite honestly, I don't understand why they're not. I've talked to both Hampton, Sydney, and Longwood presidents, and they've told me they're willing to do just about anything to help in that particular area, and we're looking at some firm things. And the last time I looked, the high school was in the bottom 4% in the state. I don't understand. And the thing about it is, you can't, it's kind of like a cake. You can't change the taste of a cake without changing the ingredients. And we need to make some changes in that area. And that's proving difficult to do. The school board's been very resistant in changing anything, but we'll get it done.
Thank you. Supervisor Townsend.
That's, just want to let everyone know I'm an advocate for the school, I always supported it, and will continue to be an advocate for the school in its progress, and to renovate, rebuild, whatever it takes. I'm born and raised here in Prince Edward, and no other better place to be raised. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting your local government body.
I also want to just say thanks for those of you that are here in this participation. This is your part of the government that you actually can take a part in. And I, for one, I know the board is exactly the same, that are thankful that you all are here, that you take an interest, and that you give us some ideas and things along the way. We're here to kind of navigate it all, but it's up to you all to get up with us and let us know what the problems are and what it is. I think that, as everyone has said, I too am supporting the school. I think that the board, we may have had a bad rap in the past about not supporting or whatever else. There's a lot of, as Jim has pointed to a few things, it's a lot of times we get the blame for it, which is kind of the part of the deal of being elected. If you don't have broad shoulders, it's best not to be up here. But with that said, any ideas or anything, please bring them to the board and that we can work through it and see if there are any other areas. It was disheartening when this bill got pulled for all of us, but that's not the end of the world. It's just kind of the beginning of a new chapter. So stay with us and keep us informed with what you know is going on. I know some of you all work there, some of you work in higher education. If there's anything that comes about that you all think that we can do, don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Supervisor Jones, any comments?
No, ma'am, I don't have a comment. I just like to agree with what everybody else said, and we want to stay out.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, we come to the consent agenda. Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Ms. Supervisor Cooper Jones?
Yes.
Pride, yes. Supervisor Gillum?
Yes.
Supervisor Booth?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilk?
Yes.
Supervisor Townsend?
Yes.
Supervisor Emmett?
Yes.
And Supervisor Jones? Okay, thank you. Motion is approved. Okay, next we move to the presentation of our F-121 audit. Mr. Josh Roller, CPA of Robinson Farmer Cox.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Roller, here tonight to present the fiscal year 21 audit. We did meet, the audit committee met about a week ago. We went through the full audit results, the full audit in great detail, so I'll try to trim it down into a little bit more of a summarized form, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or go into any more detail on anything that you guys have. So let's see here.
Any questions in the discussion?
And,
He's trying to get the clicker to work.
Okay, no, I'm just saying why he's getting ready. And Mr. Roller did an awesome job with our committee last week.
Poor Josh. Poor Josh, I wouldn't know to help you. Josh, while you're working on that, I asked Jerry if we got that money back. He said he didn't get but half. I said, I'm sorry, I wasn't there.
he needed your backup.
I knew he would. We gotta stay on, remember, Jerry?
May I ask a question?
Gotta pay up, Josh.
Oh, sure.
I don't remember your name, young lady that spoke for the school.
Jesse?
Yes.
Jesse.
Did you say you were a teacher?
I work in the honors college at Longwood University.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I was a teacher for 5 years.
Were you?
Okay.
What are you doing now?
I teach teachers at Longwood.
Teach teachers at all.
Okay. Secondary science education program
Nice.
Gary?
in the biology lab. All right, Madam Chair.
All right, and we're off here. So part of the audit, the final deliverables, obviously the full audit report, along with the 3-page letter that's called communication with those charged with governance. It's a required communication between the auditor and the governing board at the end of the audit. I'll go through both of those documents. The first one will be the communication with the governance. It talks a little bit about the auditor's responsibilities, the auditee's responsibilities, and then after that, we'll get into the audit report, the audit results as well. So, as you probably can't see, there is the actual letter, and I have hard copies if anybody would like one as well. A few things, and I'll go through it here, the few paragraphs. So the first paragraph there talks about management responsibility. As part of the audit process, management is responsible for the financial statements, preparing the trial balance, preparing the books for us to audit. They're responsible for implementing and maintaining their internal controls over financial reporting of all the different aspects of internal controls. And at the end, they accept the responsibility for the financial statements themselves. The auditor responsibilities on the other side, we have to test those internal controls implemented, test that they're adequate, as well as test material account balances. We sample a large number of transactions. And then the last part of the audit, which has a little bit less to do with actual numbers, is testing the compliance piece. There's certain things required on our end to test state compliance as well as federal compliance. This year, there was one new accounting standard adopted. It's GASB 84. This was adopted by every locality within the state, and I would say most, if not all, it did require a beginning balance adjustment. So for Prince Edward County, in the actual financial statements themselves, note 22 goes into a little bit more detail about what that GASB 84 is changing and affecting. The two things that required restatement for Prince Edward would be on the general fund, there was a restatement of $331. This is related to the special welfare funds. Previously, they had to be reported as an agency fund, basically just a holding account for DSS on the county side. Those now have to be kind of integrated with the general fund and the activity for the year. And the other one that's a little bit more significant is on the school board side. The school activity funds held by all the schools, these previously have just been separate, not included in the annual audit report of the county and school board at all. GASB 84 changed that to now they're considered kind of the responsibility of the school board. They're now a new fund reported within the school board. Doesn't affect the school operating fund. It's a separate fund within the component unit there. And on to the next page of the communication letter. All four items here are very related. We had no difficulties with dealing with management, no disagreements with management on any accounting issue. All of our journal entries that we proposed were corrected, made. And the last part there, management consultation with other auditors. We have, that didn't happen. The only reason that would happen would be to kind of, it's called opinion shopping, get a different opinion than what we were proposing. We are giving an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, so there really wouldn't be much use in doing that anyways. So now into the actual audit report itself. The audit report's made up of three basic sections. The financial section, this is where our auditor's opinion, the financial statements, and the footnotes all are. The second section is the statistical section. This shows some trend data of the last 10 years for various different numbers. And then the last section of the report is the compliance section, which this is where we have our auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting, as well as our report on the federal compliance piece. This page here on, if you're following along with the actual audit report, is our auditor's opinion. Like I said, it's an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, the best opinion that we can give you all for the year. And next, I'll talk a little bit about the actual audit process, kind of what we do when we come in twice a year, once during the summer, once during the fall to finish up. The audit itself, it covers kind of all parts of the financial picture for the county and school board. So we're doing work with the county administration, finance office, the treasurer's office, as well as the school board and social services. I tried to highlight a few of our actual procedures we do. Like I said earlier, we have to test the internal controls over various different aspects of the county and school board. That includes AP disbursements, payroll disbursements, credit card transactions, cash receipts. We're testing individually significant transactions, so everything, all transactions over a certain amount, that's a calculated amount for the whole year. We'd look at every single one of those since those are individually, materially significant to the financial statements. We also do examination, testing of balance sheet and general ledger accounts that are material in nature. So we're looking at the cash account reconciliation, property taxes, fixed assets, debt, all the bigger numbers. And then the very last bullet point there, I tried to tally up the total of number of actual individual transactions we tested. This is across our internal control testing over disbursements. This is also including what we're looking at for our compliance testing on DSS. We have to test certain things there. We have to test certain things on the federal compliance piece. The total number that came up there was 388 transactions. All right. The first section of the report after the auditor's opinion is the management discussion and analysis. This is a 10-page. It kind of gives a top-level review comparing very summarized financial statement numbers comparing to last year, as well as there's a couple pages of kind of talking about the future year budget, future year expectations as well. And then into the actual financial statements themselves. The governmental fund financial statements are Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 5. Just a couple of numbers from there on Exhibit 3. Your ending fund balance for all governmental funds was $23,717,460. The general fund balance of that number was $19.8 million, and of the total fund balance of $23 million, 19.41 was the unassigned amount. So kind of at your discretion to be used. The Exhibit 5, this is also related to your governmental funds. This shows your current year activity, so your revenues, expenditures, your change in fund balance for the year. So the total for all governmental funds increased by $5.86 million. Of that total there, the general fund made up an increase of $6.45 million. And then the next few pages here are a couple of graphs showing the trend data just over the last 5 years. This first one is fund balance by type. That the blue part there is your unassigned amount of fund balance. As you can see, it increased quite a bit this year. On to the next page. This is your expenditures, except for capital projects, versus your fund balance. Your expenditure is that red line there. As you can see, it's pretty consistent with the fund balance. And a few more numbers just on a 5-year basis for the general fund balance as a percentage of the general fund expenditures, as you can see, increased quite a bit this year comparing to the last 5 years. And as you can see, the general fund revenues there are pretty consistently growing over the last 5 years. The next section is the statistical section. This, again, is where it gives a 10-year history of certain numbers over those 20 pages there. I'll kind of just a couple of graphs that I'll go over pretty quickly here. The first one is general fund revenues broken out by the different categories of revenues. That bottom line, I believe to be purple line there, is your federal revenues. Obviously, this increased quite a bit this year, and that's related to the CARES Act, other COVID funding. This graph here is your general fund expenditures broken out by category. And again, those two outliers there are related to kind of COVID funding, CARES Act funding. The one that increased quite a bit was the general government administration. That's kind of where a lot of the pass-through stuff to relief efforts went. This next, the last of the trend data here is your real property assessments related to your outstanding debt. As you can see, it's been pretty consistent, right around 1% there. And then the last part of the report is related to the compliance requirement. There are two different reports from us in this section of the report. The first one is our independent auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting. From that letter, you will see We had one financial statement finding that was related to adjusting journal entries, year-end accruals that were not made, that had to be made on our end. Again, this was discussed in great detail in our audit committee meeting. And then we had one issue of state noncompliance notice, noted, that was related to the annual school report not filing by the statutory deadline that the code of Virginia lays out. The second report in that compliance section is related to the federal audit compliance, also referred to as uniform guidance. From that, we had no issues of noncompliance noted in there, so kind of a clean report. And from that, that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you, sir.
We thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Maybe next year.
Thanks, John.
Yep, thank you all.
Okay, to accept this audit report, we need to have a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Patty?
Yes.
Odessa, yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Bobby? Okay, so moved, the motion carries. Thank you again, Mr. Roller. Now, it is 7:33, and may I suggest, because I know she won't take long, well, I hope not. What's the favor of the board? Do we do the Piedmont Health District update and Commonwealth Regional Council before the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, thank you. At this time, we have the Piedmont Health District update from Dr. Maria Allman, who's the district director.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman, Board. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address this board once again. On the last occasion in October, I was the brand-new health director. COVID cases were on the decline after the Delta wave, and we were preparing to launch for the new Pfizer 5 to 11 vaccine in the community. I am now a 4-month seasoned district or health director. I've moved with this community through what now feels like an era of COVID. We are now on the downside of the Omicron surge.
Good.
And our district is preparing for the launch of the new Pfizer 6-month-old to 4-year-old vaccine. Life and COVID move in cycles. Indeed, we are now seeing steady and rapid declines in the case numbers across the district. 2 weeks ago, Prince Edward recorded 216 cases. Last week, we counted 124.
Great.
Cases are not the full story, though. There's a large range of disease severity. Case counts are increasingly less accurate, with the rise of in-home tests, delays in our own recording, and citizens not testing at all, which is actually a fair choice if you choose to stay home for 5 days. What truly shows me that we are in a better situation is that our hospitalization numbers have been in persistent and steady decline. Centra as a whole, including the Lynchburg system, is now at 111 people hospitalized who also have COVID-positive tests. This is down from a peak on January 25th of 200. Centra Southside has been a necessary part of that equation and continues to host steady numbers with 16 on the COVID ward as of today. Despite having a greater percentage of those with mild presentations, Omicron, due to the sheer number of infections, has strained our hospital system, kept too many of our children away from school, and stressed our economy with record numbers of essential staff requiring home isolation. We have also district-wide recorded 310 deaths since the start of the pandemic. These are the lives of our grandparents, our parents, friends, and neighbors. But I am very hopeful for days ahead filled with more familiar rhythms, days in which we can begin to gather with a little bit less anxiety and in which we can begin to work together for the betterment of our community with a little less forethought. We are not where we were in March 2020. We have the miracle of vaccines. We have antiviral treatments here in this community to help prevent severe disease. And I have notified all of our providers of where to get that. We know a little bit more about the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19, that infiltrates our bodies and spreads throughout our communities. We can now effectively combat this virus. Far and away, the most effective means we have is vaccination. 3 doses across the board. Okay, these are hard numbers. So Prince Edward is only 46.2% fully vaccinated amongst those eligible. This is the lowest in our district.
Wow.
Just a quarter of our children, ages 5 to 17, are fully vaccinated, 10% of our 5 to 11-year-olds, 42% of our 12 to 17-year-olds. We can improve those numbers, and as your health district director, we will continue to work to ensure that all those who are eligible and want a vaccine receive one. We are now moving to shut-ins, going door to door, working very hard to get those last vaccines in. I want to let you know that the picture is not quite as concerning as those numbers seem to show. So there are a couple of points in the data that you must know if you're looking at our pages, because it does look bleak when you open up a Virginia map. Our data shows that only 13.8% of our 18 to 24-year-olds are vaccinated, and we know that is not true. Our institutions of higher education have much, much higher vaccination percentages. So assuming a fairly conservative estimate of 60% rather than 13.8% in that population, that brings us up to 56% of our population fully vaccinated, which is much more in line with our neighboring counties and would be, I assume, is about where we are actually at. Additionally, many epidemiologists now believe that we can safely assume 40% of our entire population has been infected with COVID-19. If we assume that half of that amount, or people who had never had any prior immunity, never had a vaccination, then we add that to the 56%. We have maybe around 80% of our population that has some form of immunity. So we're not treatment naive like we were in March 2020. And in the age groups that have the highest mortality, we do have good immunity. 86% of our deaths in this district are those above 60 years old. 81% of those 65 and older in this county are vaccinated. 59% are boosted. Those are good numbers. And we're working to, that is our 100% our target population right now to get, because they have the highest mortality, because they have the highest chance of getting hospitalized. Even our hospitalization numbers, 80% of those 50 and above, those are the people that are getting hospitalized. This is good, but if there is any lesson that we have learned, it is that COVID is relentless and continues to surprise. We will have to continue to defend and protect, and we must be unified in this community. We will begin to move back from some of our most costly mitigation efforts, including tools that have been mainstays, such as quarantine. Already, all of the United States epidemiological associations have indicated that we are no longer contact tracing, including VDH, including our health district. So we are no longer doing unified contact tracing across the board. This naturally leads to less quarantines in our community. This is okay. We are at a point where we can safely say that those who are healthy, who have just had a contact with somebody in this community who has COVID, can still go about their lives. There are some high-risk contact exposures that we are looking at, but this is okay. We are more careful in our schools, and I'm working very closely with our schools to take very, very steady, stepwise approaches to moving back those mitigation efforts. We are always looking at the costs and the benefits to what we do, and it is important to keep our society and our community moving forward. We have to be careful, and we have to move in ways that are supported by the knowledge that we carry. All of this can be utterly confusing. That is why I am here. I am the person to come to if you have any questions, concerns, if you have concerns from your school district, if you have concerns from your businesses. I am there to answer those questions and always available. The basic message is actually very, very simple. Stay at home if you are sick and get vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Almond. Appreciate that.
Any questions, concerns?
Dr. Almond, I've got one, I get confused as far as the school kids wearing masks and so forth. I was just curious, I don't have any kids at school. But what's the problem there? Or how do you feel about it? Should they be wearing masks or should they not?
So in Prince Edward, the school system, the school board has decided that the mask mandate will stay, and they are currently all wearing masks. That is not true of every county in my district. And I have had extensive conversations with all of them, all the same conversations. So they have all weighed that evidence and come to slightly different conclusions. Masks.
Seems like politics are getting tied up too much in it.
Masks are hard. They are not, you notice, I did not mention masks in the presentation. They are not the most important piece of the puzzle. Vaccinations far and away are the most important piece. Masks are intrinsically tied to a lot of our guidelines that keep our kids in school, so it's complicated. There is a big difference between a cloth mask and a respirator. When I last came to you in October, I was wearing this respirator, not this exact one. I am still wearing a respirator. They make a substantial amount of difference. A cloth mask, when you're looking at evidence of, so there are a lot of groups that measure all of these things, air quality control groups, environmental health groups, occupational health groups. They add, cloth masks add minutes from the baseline of no masks at all. So if you're in a room with a steady dose of vaccine, they will add minutes to your protection. Respirators add hours. So 2 people wearing a respirator, probably about 25 hours that you will be very much protected from COVID-19. If you get those fit tested, so OSHA requirements, there's a big thing, you fit tested, that's like what people will wear. That's 2,500 hours if 2 people are wearing fit tested N95 masks. Huge variation there. Our students wear cloth masks. They do help. My kids wear masks every single day to their extracurriculars, other places. It helps with the droplets. It helps them remember to keep their distance. They're very, very helpful. If kids are coughing, if they're sneezing, there is an added layer of protection over that. It is not the end-all be-all, and they are imperfect. So I think that it is open to debate when you remove those masks, but I will tell you that the guidelines are so intrinsically tied to those masks that right now, the costs and benefits of releasing them, I actually recommend keeping them on as a last effort. In my very humble opinion, quarantines are actually the more costly mitigation problem in schools. They keep our healthy children away from the school system. And it'll still be, we'll still have to see with Omicron because it is spreading at a much higher rate throughout our school systems. But until this point, there's about 1 to 2% of children were actually transmitting COVID-19 in the schools. And so when you start quarantining 80 kids to prevent 1 infection, that's a lot of kids at home. It's different with Omicron. That number comes down, that calculus comes down, but we know more about the disease now, and kids can get vaccinated.
So at KN95, how long, what was the time span on that?
About 25 hours, if you are wearing a KN95 and the other person is also wearing a KN95. There are variations on that, obviously.
Suppose the other person not though.
I don't remember, less than that.
I'd say at least half.
I can give you that data.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Sure,
Allen, for your
of course, thank you.
Appreciate that. And before we go into public hearing, we are going to ask Ms. Melody Foster, Executive Director of Commonwealth Regional Council, to come forth with her report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me tonight. This is our annual meeting where we have been through our audit this past year, and I'm going to be presenting a member refund check. But I first wanted just to give a brief update. I know you're waiting for your public hearing, so this will be quick. Just wanted to point out this past fiscal year, the Commonwealth Regional Council brought in $2,084,750 in grant funds for the entire region. That's $210,000 more than last year. Directly to Prince Edward County and local funding, that was $316,153. And if you want to know what the total for just regional projects, it was $250,125. Not to get ahead of myself, but so far, actually since July 1st, we have had a really good year this year. We've already brought in $18.9 million since July 1st. But I'll have to say Prince Edward's part of that credit. We've had two really big grants. One of them was your VADI grant for broadband. That was a regional grant. We were the applicant with Prince Edward, Cumberland, and Lunenburg. That was a $15 million grant. And then also, as a planning district, all the planning districts in Virginia receive housing funds this year, and we received $2 million for that. So that's, the current. Some of the types of projects that were funded locally were mostly emergency and police equipment, but that's monies that you don't have to spend local. You got grant funds to spend on that instead. And the regional projects that have been funded, we did one for a regional election security, so that's going to help out your registrar's office and the others in the surrounding counties. We've been doing a lot of emergency planning assistance for quite a few years now and continue to get grant funds to support that. We're currently doing an update of the regional hazard mitigation plan that covers all 7 of our counties. And I'm sure you're aware by having that update, God forbid you have a natural disaster and you need FEMA funding, you have to have an approved hazard mitigation funding to be eligible for those funds. So that helps you make you eligible. And I hope each month, also, and I know it's in your packet this month, I always provide you the CRC items of interest to keep you updated on what we're doing every single month. I hope that's, been working for you. And I just wanted to remind you that while we do free grant writing, I know that's the thing that a lot of you usually come to us for, we also do other things on fee-based services for project management, which we're doing some for Prince Edward right now. We do updates of comprehensive plans. We've done yours in the past. And then, of course, I'm sure many of you are aware, this year we've been doing redistricting as we have in the past, and Prince Edward's close to finishing out theirs. So with that, I just wanted to point out this year's membership refund is $4,953.46. As you know, our membership policy has a goal that once we have an audit done, whatever that audited cash fund is over, and it used to be $500,000 this past year, the council has the ability to change that amount, and we did up it to $600,000, quite frankly, because we've been successful enough that our cash balance has been increasing. So we did increase it to $600,000, but our cash fund balance did exceed that. It was $634,674. So we're returning to all 7 of the counties a total of $34,674. As always, when I present that check, I always like to remind you that, as always, you can reinvest these funds in the council. And as I've just pointed out, hopefully we have proven that we are a good investment. So I do have the check with me to present to the board. Any questions?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
As to give it back, is that what you're saying, Ms. Pratt?
Well, we can either go with the proposed motion or the alternate. Right. We can request a refund in the full amount, or we can invest half and request a refund. Half refund, half investment.
2 years ago, the board took the full refund. Last year, we gave them back half and reinvested.
I'll make a motion to give them back half reinvested.
A second.
Okay, so your motion is request a refund of $2,476.73 and reinvest the other half. Is that? Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Patty?
Aye.
Odessa? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beverly? Jim?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
David?
I have to abstain because I'm on that board.
Okay, thank you. And Bobby? Bobby, you there? Bobby? Do we go on?
Melody, you put him to sleep.
I will say that I think that's a good idea. I can't vote because I'm on the board.
Right.
I think it's a wise decision. They've done a lot for us.
Okay,
Sounds like you've been doing a wonderful job.
so that motion is passed, even though it sounds like Bobby's not there. Thank you so much.
And Doug, I'll get with you all whether you want this check or you want me to avoid it and.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melody.
At this time, we're going to have a 5-minute recess, and I would just ask the board just to stay in place while we're ready for the public hearing. 5 minutes. And Sarah, if you could ask Trey to set that clock for 5 minutes so we'll know exactly when the 5-minute period is up. Thank you.
We would invite everyone in the boardroom who isn't directly here for the public hearing. There are about 40
The time has arrived for our public hearing of the evening. Mr. Love will present. The applicant will speak afterwards. We will have additional speakers. Thank you, Mr. Love.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, our public hearing tonight is a special use permit for a meat processing facility filed by Beverly and Kadir Abdul Sabar.
Excuse me, Mr. Love, could you speak up a little bit? Look
Yes,
like I
I'm
can't hear.
sorry.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Pardon me. Our public hearing tonight is to consider a special use permit for a meat processing facility that's been filed by Beverly and Kadir Abdul Sabar on tax map 74-A-26B on Darlington Heights Road, Cullen. This public hearing was properly advertised in the January 26th and February 2nd editions of the Farmville Herald. Adjoining property letters were sent to all adjoiners. You have a copy of that in your place setting. The Planning Commission held their advisory hearing on January 18th, where no one spoke in opposition. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval with 18 conditions, and I'll read those conditions for the record.
Thank you.
Condition number 1, development activities on the site shall be limited to those as specified in the special use permit application and site plan. The final locations of incidental facilities may be adjusted, provided that no such adjustment violates any setbacks, buffers, or any other statutory requirement. The concepts reflected in the filed special use permit dated November 29th, 2021 are hereby made a part of these developmental conditions. Number 2, any proposed expansion of the operation, change of activities, or additional facilities or activities shall be submitted to the Prince Edward County Planning and Community Development Office for review prior to implementation. Any changes may be subject to permit amendment procedures, including public hearings. Number 3, all pollution control measures, erosion and sediment control measures, stormwater control facilities, and all construction activities shall comply with the requirements of the appropriate federal, state, and local regulations and ordinances. Number 4, noise, light, vibration, or odor associated with the processing operation shall not be perceptible beyond the site boundary property lines. Number 5, all facilities for the provision of potable water and sanitation and wastewater disposal systems shall be approved by Virginia Department of Health. Number 6, any additional development activities of structural or land disturbing nature shall not specifically addressed by these conditions shall be in conformance with the applicable provisions of federal, state, or local statutes and regulations. Number 7, the septic system shall have an alarm system installed in order to detect any problem or malfunction that may occur. Number 8, all entrance permits must be authorized by the Virginia Department of Transportation. Number 9, all internal roads used for public access shall be of compacted earth or have a minimum of 4-inch stone base or shall be paved. Number 10, adequate area shall be provided on site to accommodate parking of all employees and patrons. It is responsibility of the permittee to ensure that employees and patrons park only on site and not on highway right-of-way or on adjoining or adjacent parcels unless written consent is provided by the owner or owners thereof. Number 11, all operations of the facility shall be in compliance with United States Department of Agriculture and Virginia Department of Health rules and regulations. Number 12, all exterior lighting shall be designed and installed so as to minimize glare onto adjoining properties or any public access road. All lighting shall be full cutoff type fixtures. Number 13, outdoor storage of dumpster trash containers shall be situated at the rear of buildings and shall be appropriately screened per Prince Edward County zoning ordinance, section 4-200.15. Number 14, all equipment used in processing of the meat product shall be located wholly within a building or structure or shall be screened from public rights-of-way or adjacent residential buildings. Number 15, meat product shall be slaughtered and stored within a building or structure so as it is not visible from property lines. Number 16, the permittee is responsible for the appearance of the site, including litter pickup and other orderly site appearance. Number 17, this permit is non-transferable and except unless written notice from the permittee regarding the transfer and a signed document from the proposed new permittee is received by the Planning and Community Development Office, which states that the new permittee agrees to comply with all terms and conditions
imposed by the original permit issuance. If the proposed new permittee desires to amend the original permit conditions, amendments must be addressed by the Prince Edward County Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors through the special use permit process. Number 18, failure of the permittee to conform to all terms and conditions may result in revocation of this special use permit if said failure or failures are not corrected or addressed to the satisfaction, not to the unreasonably withheld of the county within 30 days of written notice from the county. Additionally, in your addendum package, we had letters that came in your original package. In your addendum, there's petitions and also letters and emails that we received. All of these are sorted chronologically as we received them. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
To make sure about something, but a slaughterhouse is allowed by right, is not in an agricultural zone?
No, this use is only allowed by a special use permit in an A1 agricultural conservation zoning district. It is considered an industrial. It's listed as an industrial use type, and so therefore it is only allowed by a special use permit, not by right.
Madam Chair, I would like to note that I received 3 additional petition sheets totaling 13 names this evening after your copies were made in the dais.
Any further questions for me?
At this time, will we have the applicant to present his information before us?
Madam Chair, members of the board, citizens, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sekou Abdus-Sabor. I'm here this evening with my family, my parents, to talk about a meat processing facility that we'd like to build and operate on Darlington Heights Road over in Cullen, Virginia. I wanted to discuss a few things, the overview of the project, what we have in mind, and share some thoughts that we have and some plans that we hope that will be accepted by the board and we can move forward with our project. I want to start out that our goal, our mission, is to provide a service for the local farmers and the consumers in our county. Right now, farmers have to take their their livestock elsewhere to a stockyard, to a sale barn, other owners to sell their meat. For those that produce meat, they have to sell it live on the hoof. We have some processors in our community that do what's called custom butchering, custom butchers. And what that is it's regulated by Virginia, state of Virginia. And those processors do a custom cut. A custom process is if you own an animal, you take it to the processor, they will process it the way you want. You tell them you want X numbers of this many pounds of that, et cetera, et cetera. You then take your meat back home with you, and you can have it with your family, share it with your friends, et cetera. What we would like to do is open up a USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, inspected facility. What this means is meat that you buy in a grocery store, at a restaurant, businesses, public locations, has all been USDA inspected. What this means to farmers is that you now have a place to bring your animals that we can process under USDA inspection. An inspector will be there on the premises at all times, the USDA inspector. And the meat that comes from that, you can then take home and sell it as your own product that you raise on your own farm, or we'll buy it from you and we'll sell it as retail meat in the front of the plant or wholesale to businesses, local entities, et cetera, et cetera. So there's 2 categories, custom and USDA. We intend to do both. If you meet the USDA curriculum or guidelines, you in turn also apply for the Virginia guidelines and you meet both standards. So we want to do both. The procedure in what we're offering and what we're proposing is the farmer will call, make an appointment. We're doing appointment-only processing. So to prevent a mob of trucks and tractors and trailers just mobbing up and down the road, we're not going to have that. By appointment only, people will call, make an appointment, they will bring their animals to the plant. They will be met by me at the plant. We'll do the necessary paperwork. The inspector will be there as well. The animals are inspected once we take possession. Once you bring your animals to the plant, we take possession. It's now part of the federal government, USDA. They'll make sure the animals are healthy, make sure there's no problems, make sure everything's fine. And then and only then, we begin the process with the inspector there. The animal is harvested, we clean, get it all situated, and then it's cooled. Depending on what the animals are, if it's lamb or goat, it's cooled for 7 to 9 days, or beef, 14 to 21 days. And that's determined upon the customer, what the animal, how much, how healthy, not healthy, how heavy the animal is, et cetera, et cetera. So those aging processes may vary. When animals come in to be processed, because we're doing it by appointment, the animals will come in, and within minutes, 20 minutes or so, the animal goes inside of our facility. Our facility building is going to be completely closed in. The animal comes into a chute, comes inside, the doors close. So once the doors close, there's absolutely no sound that comes out of the building, none whatsoever. If there were, if we didn't have that in place, you may hear an animal make a noise or something like as you move them around. But what we'll do is we practice humane handling. So what that means is the animals are absolutely relaxed when they come off the trailer, when they go into the holding pen, when they go into the facility, they move at their own pace, very calm, very quiet. Everything is very, very civil. There's no loud screaming or yelling or none of those things. The animals are not in pain and that type of thing. We don't condone that in animal welfare anyway, but we're certainly not going to do it in this case. I'm just trying to stay along with my notes, so bear with me, please. Some of our potential farms that we've spoken with have expressed to us, and we hear it all the time, that there's a frustration that the meat shortage in the grocery stores and in other places has had an impact on the way people purchase meat. In the front of this plant that we're proposing, we're going to have a retail store. So families, people in the community can come to the store and they can buy individual cuts of meat. You can buy whatever cuts are your favorite. You don't have to buy in bulk. If you use custom, you have to buy either a quarter or a half, in some cases a whole cow or goat or lamb or pig or whatever the case may be. But we'll have a retail store in the front of the plant that people can come and buy meat in smaller packages. Another advantage of that, what we'd like to offer is businesses, local businesses, restaurants, they have to buy their meat USDA inspected. This will also provide a method or a way that they can in turn supply their businesses locally with locally grown animals, processed locally, and enjoyed here in our community, in our area. In a slaughter facility, in a processing facility, there's waste. 3 types of waste I'd like to speak about briefly. The first type is normal waste, as if you wash your hands, take a shower, use the restroom, just normal household waste. That waste will have a standard septic system, just like in a regular home, like anybody would have, and that water goes directly to just a normal health department approved septic system. The processing floor has 2 types of waste, solid and liquid. The liquid, in this case, is blood. We're going to have an underground tank so that when the animal is harvested, the blood goes directly into the underground tank and it's stored there. It's stored in the underground tank, it's sealed off. It will have an activation system on it, as the county's outlined in the special considerations, potential conditions. We will have that tank pumped by Taylor's Septic Tank Service out of Appomattox. We've worked with them. They are already on board. They agree with the terms that we presented. And the city of Lynchburg wastewater treatment plant has agreed to our terms to accept the waste that we're going to ship up there periodically. Now, depending on how fast this tank fills will determine the amount that we'll move, but it will not overfill or overflow in any way. So that's the liquid waste. The solid waste. At our last conversation when I was here for the Planning Commission, we spoke about our incineration procedure. every day, every evening, we have solid waste from that day's production. We will collect it all, and we're going to incinerate. Now, what we're using is a medical-grade incinerator. It's the same incinerator that hospitals use, medical facilities use to dispose of medical byproducts, et cetera, et cetera. This incinerator is called double-chambered. What happens is you put the contents inside, you seal it, it does its thing, it burns it off. Above it, it has a gas chamber. Any products of smoke that go inside, that are generated inside the initial container are captured in a secondary container, blasted with an additional heat, and injected with super hot fuel, which vaporizes any smell or odor or smoke. So what comes out of the smokestack beyond that is just water vapor, steam. So the smell that people may think would come out, it's not the case in what we plan to do. Since I was last here for the planning committee, I was approached by a compost contractor that asked if they could buy the waste from us. I said, that's a different conversation for a different day, but thank you for the offer, we'll discuss it. In this case, if we were to do that, they would come weekly or every few days or so and take it away to their facility, process it into compost, and sell it as fertilized soil or soil for their operation. This is in Northern Virginia, so it's 100 and however many miles away. So we have two possible, one definite, which is our incineration procedure, but then an additional possible way to reuse the waste from the plant. In our facility, we're going to focus primarily on beef, lamb, and goat. We are not going to do wild game or hogs. The USDA does not look favorably upon wild game operations because it's too difficult to control the quality in wild game. So they don't not allow it, they just frown on it heavily. So we're not going to do it. We don't want to do anything to get close to a line that could cause non-compliance. So we're going to stay away from that. The hogs and pigs, most of our customers are not going to don't eat pork. And there are a lot of producers, a lot of processors in the area that already do wild game and hogs. So we're going to not do those things so people can still, the producers that have hogs that still want to sell the meat, they still have another way to do that. We're just going to do the beef, goats, and lambs at our facility. That is all I have. I can answer any questions that anyone may have, either now or later. Yes, sir.
I've got a question. What do you think your total investment in this is going to be? Approximately.
We're striving very hard to stay under $1 million, $1 million. We're striving very hard to stay under that. We're hoping that we can come in at 750,000-ish. A lot depends on hinges on tonight, so I can't give you a more definite answer. Tonight
Sure.
is a big hinge in what we're doing, but yes, sir. So 750, 1 million-ish in that area. Sure. Yes?
I have two questions. You were speaking of an inspector.
Yes.
To look at the animals when they're offloaded.
Yes.
Who is this inspector? Where is he going to be?
So that inspector has not been assigned yet. After tonight's hearing, I'll contact the USDA tomorrow morning and give them the results of our hearing. And then, at which time they're going to give us the name of the supervisor, the USDA supervisor, and they'll say, okay, this is the person that covers your district, your area, which would be Virginia and North Carolina. And then I'll then get a name and a phone number, and then I will call that person. Hi, this is Sekou. Last night at the board, this is what was discussed, et cetera, et cetera. That person will be our point of contact moving forward if we're successful tonight. We'll move forward with that person.
So if you take in animals on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he needs to be there, you're telling me?
Absolutely. Not only that, the inspector will be there when we receive animals through the harvesting process. And then as the animal dry ages, as the meat dry ages in a cooler, and we schedule a processing date. So you harvest the animal one day and you hang it to cool and to dry age. 3 days, 7 days, a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever it is, when that animal comes onto the processing floor to actually make the cuts and the meat, the ground, and inspectors there as well. So the inspector comes at 2 occasions throughout this. The Virginia inspector comes in and out periodically as they see fit. But the USDA inspector is there from 8 to 4 or 7 to 3, whatever, however we set the hours, day in, day out. Anytime the doors are open, the inspector's there. The inspector reserves the right, well, the inspector's making sure that we do what's right for the safety of food, the food in the human food chain. So we would be out of compliance if we did something without the inspector being standing there, without the inspector there. So we would not gamble on that at all. But yes, the inspector will be there. Whenever the doors are open, the inspector will be there, except weekends. They don't do weekends or holidays. But the other side, when we do custom work, the Virginia inspector comes into play, and the Virginia inspector comes and goes as their schedule allows. They'll call, hey, we're going to be there today from 8 to 3, or whatever the case may be. Yes, sir.
My second question, you made the comment there, when the animal's offloaded, they go right into the facility for slaughter. Your drawing shows 4 holding pens here. What are they for?
So we know that a lot of our producers work on farm and off farm. So we wanted to be able to provide a way for farmers who have an off farm job to be able to bring their animals in, say, for example, on a Sunday night. If they bring they have to go to their regular job on a Monday. They bring the animal on a Sunday night at 8 p.m., for example. I will meet them there. We'll put the animal inside one of the holding pens that you see in the drawing with water and hay, and they will sit there just throughout the course of the night, and then the next morning at 8 a.m., that'll be the first animal that goes in. That's the first thing. The second thing is the USDA requires holding pens for a USDA facility, because when the inspector is there, if they find something wrong, the animals have to be moved into a pen and secluded to hold, not to go in the food chain until the USDA veterinarian gets there. The vet gets there and says, yes, this is okay, or no, it's not. If it's not, we call the farmer back, hey, this is what happened. Here's the document from the USDA stating that your animal was not suitable to enter the human food chain. Please come get it. And then the person would come back. So we just have to have a place to hold animals in safety and away from everything else while we either process or don't.
In these holding pens, what is where are you going to clean these pens? I don't see any piping for drains or wash down or?
So, oh, yes, sir. It's just regular water hose and shovels. It's going to be some leg work there, arm work, just manual labor.
And where will that material be stored?
It's just, we'll put it on gardens. It should be just manure like from animals manure. Maybe some sawdust or straw, something like that. It's just regular farm absorbent on the animals. That's all it is. It'll be a concrete floor, and then we'll just wash it out and clean it out daily. Okay, so,
Thank you.
CQ, before I make a comment to you, let me ask, Bobby, are you on air? Can you hear me, Bobby? I think it's very important that Bobby. Okay, thank you. Now, one thing, the Planning Commission unanimously approved this, but I want to thank Mr. Love for presenting 18 conditions. You know, you're looking at a commission that does the job and say, oh, we're gonna do this, but they gave 18 different conditions. And you saw all of those and you vowed to be in compliance with those conditions that they ask of you.
yes, ma'am. Each and every one, 100%.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, okay.
I was looking at your drawing, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The west corner of your building's 200 foot from a property line, and the right corner is 150 foot from a property line. And my comments were about these holding pens if you have animals overnight. And one of the conditions is the odor. And I've been on a farm all my life.
Yes, sir.
I've been around facilities like you're talking about in the business I'm in. I don't see how you'd ever control the odor 150 foot away from a property line.
Which odor are you speaking of, sir?
From the pens.
Cow manure?
Yep.
Okay.
whatever.
Yes, sir, it'll be cow manure or sheep manure.
If you unload a truck the day before or the night, you know you're gonna have buildup.
Yes, sir.
And if the wind's blowing 150 feet away, I worry about that.
I understand. So we only have one animal that would be held overnight. The animal would go into a clean pen. So the amount of waste that one animal would produce in that pen, it probably would have a smell, but I don't know that it would be as odoriferous as perhaps a flock of animals or several animals. We would only use the overnight procedure on the case that there's one animal that goes first thing in the morning. So the animal would be in there from that evening to the next morning. We're going to have a privacy fence that can't be seen from there. That'll block some of the smell. But the waste from one animal, it may smell. Yes, sir, it may. I don't know that if it'd be strong enough to not dissipate in the distance between there and the road.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Any other questions, Mr. Abdul-Sabur? Okay, thank you much.
Thank you.
At this time, we are going to have comments from the citizens of the Darlington Heights community. And from my understanding, there are supposed to be 4 main speakers. So I'm going to allocate 4 minutes each. It's going to be 4 because I've already talked with them, okay? When your 4-minute time period is up, the beep will go off and you know you're finished. Now, Mr. Timmons, you are right in saying 4 will speak?
4 primary.
Okay, 4 primary. And then if there are additional individuals who would like to speak, depending on the number, we're going to give you at least 1, at the most 2 minutes. The only thing that I am requesting is that you don't repeat any information that has been heard prior to your standing, okay? But we're willing to listen. So any new information with additional speakers will be presented. Mr. Timmons, you first.
I'd like to be 4.
Okay, thank you. Okay, who would like to be first as your keynote
Best for last.
speakers?
He told me I was first.
Mr. Tinsley.
Okay, Mr. Tinsley.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, I'm hanging in there.
Good,
Doing pretty good for an old man.
good.
I'm gonna hand out a little something. If you would, just don't look at it until I'm ready for you to look at it, so you won't get confused about what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I can't get Bobby one through the phone system, so Bobby, you'll just have to guess it at what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
First off, I'd like to say good evening to the distinguished board and county administrator and all the citizens that are here to see about this thing. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Dallas Tinsley. I'm from Darlington Heights. And as you referred, these will be broken up into 4 different areas, each one pertaining to a different thing, so that we get all the information out that we want. My part is dealing with how we got to this point, how we got here with a unanimous recommendation from the planning board when no one knew it was going on. And I mean no one, didn't have a clue. They knew nothing of it. The planning board was to send out letters to the neighboring property owners. I am sure not all of them got them. This would be according to Virginia Code 15.2-2204. I was told a sign was put up. I went to see the sign. I took 3 drive-bys to property before I recognized the sign. Look at your picture number 1. Be the first one when you turn it over. This is what you see when you're driving down Darlington Heights Road. Can you see the sign? okay? How many of you can read the sign? I doubt that any of you can because of the way it is pictured. According to Prince Edward County's code, Article 5, Section 5-120.5, the sign must state what the hearing is for with a contact number. It only had a contact number. It also states that the sign must be clearly visible. It is not clearly visible. I refer to you to the picture you're looking at now. Now, the only way to read this sign is to stop in the middle of the road on a busy highway in order so you can write down the number. Look at picture number 2. That's what you see when you come to a complete stop in the middle of the road. This is a pretty busy highway. So obviously the sign is not clearly visible, so that does not meet the county's code as to how they're posted. With the sign where it states, and you running 50 miles an hour, you have less than 1 second to read the sign. This is not proper notification to the citizens of Prince Edward County. Now, they need to change their methods and think about the citizens' want and their needs. The Farmville Herald is not the proper way to advertise public hearings anymore because very few people take the Farmville Herald. They prefer social media. I'll give you an example. Once we saw this, I called the number and they told me the meeting was 2 days ago. I just found out about it because somebody else said, "What's that sign for?" Well, the sign wouldn't state what it's for, so you had to guess at it. So, okay, well, it doesn't bother me. Doesn't affect me. There was no wording on the sign that told them what it was about. Very few citizens take that. So my wife, being the Facebook guru that she is, she puts it on social media. And within 24 hours, our phone was inundated with call after call after call after call asking us, what the heck is going on?
Excuse me, Mr. Tinsley.
Nobody
your time is
knew.
up. Time's up. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Well, you got 195 names there of people that have signed the petition saying they do not want this in the Darlington Heights area.
Thank you, Mr. Tinsley.
And you should listen to them.
Okay, Mr. Timmons, who's next? Mr. Thaxton?
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members. I am Marshall Thaxton, a resident of Prince Edward County, and I reside in the Buffalo District. I am a licensed real estate broker with Statewide Realty in Farmville, and I've been licensed to sell real estate for 45 years. For the past 18 years, I have been chairman of the Board of Equalization of Real Estate Values in this county, which is a position recommended by the Board of Supervisors and appointed by the Circuit Court. The proposed location of this slaughterhouse is in an A1 zone with numerous residential properties adjacent to and in sight of the proposed business. After contacting the assessors that were hired by our county, we have determined that the value of the properties near this business will be devalued by as much as 30%. Having said that, the property next door was sold December 2020 for $299,900. Reduce 30% of that for an adjusted value of $209,900. This would, at today's tax rate, it's 47 cents. I've been told the website still says 50-some cents. Better check it. This would be $423 per year in lost revenue for Prince Edward County on this one property. Consider the other properties in the neighborhood. I feel that this application is certainly a commercial business and should be in a commercial or industrial zone. Those zones are available in Prince Edward County, adjacent to the town of Farmville. And according to Prince Edward County zoning book, section 2-100, A1 Agricultural Conservation District, agricultural, forestry, and related uses are encouraged in A1 districts. The A1 district also allows certain limited commercial uses in recognition of the county's historical development patterns. It lists 9 types of agricultural use, but it does not mention slaughterhouses or meat packing facilities. After reviewing the comprehensive plan for Prince Edward County, as found on their website, Chapter 8, Section 2, under land use, the goal is to ensure the optimal use of land resources within Prince Edward County and to promote and support an environmentally sound future land use pattern that provides for a variety of community needs and minimizes conflicts between existing and proposed land uses. Chapter 8, Objective 4, promote a strong and diversified industrial commercial base which does not create significant negative impacts on residential areas, prime agricultural lands, or public facilities. Objective number 7, to promote Prince Edward County's rural communities as suitable locations for approximately scaled residential, commercial, and civic development. This would be obtained by discouraging new development proposals in rural areas of the county that are inconsistent with the future land use map or with the policies contained in this comprehensive plan. Objective 3 of land use is to protect the integrity of existing residential neighborhoods. The Darlington Heights community is an agricultural area where we live and raise our families. I feel that this application is certainly a commercial business and should be in a commercial zone. The proposed processing slaughterhouse would be in view of numerous homes. These homes have been purchased by people with the understanding they were moving to a quiet agriculture area. The thought never crossed their minds when purchasing these properties that someone would even consider building a slaughterhouse in view of their home. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Mr. Timmons. Who's next?
Here comes somebody.
While he's coming, I want to make something perfectly clear. When I talked to Mr. Timmons, I said that I was going to give them approximately 5 minutes. He said, no, we're going to do 4. He's very much aware of the time frame and so forth. So I was directed that each would be 4 minutes, and that's why we have the clock. Thank you so much.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to come here tonight and speak with you.
Excuse me, sir, would you state your name?
I'm getting ready to.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm Larry Hollowell, and I'm very much against the special use permit for meat processing facility in the Darlington Heights area. I've had a farm in the community for 22 years, and the thought that not just me and my neighbors, but anyone here in this building tonight would think that they would wake up in the morning and look out their door, across the street, 200 feet to the left, 200 feet to the right, they would see a meat processing facility. That's unimaginable. After a little research, it was easy to see why the neighbors are so concerned about their property value and losing their peace and quiet that we have so long enjoyed. The University of Missouri did a study on the average value impact and the impact of distance from meat processing plants. An average vacant parcel within 3 miles of a meat processing facility lost 6.6%. That same parcel, 1/10 of a mile from the facility, lost 88.3%. Pasco, Washington. They did a study on a 309-acre farm. It had been producing alfalfa and corn for years. It was located a 1/4 mile from a facility. The farm dropped in value 50% and had to be sold. The National Board of Realtors did a study and found a negative relationship on property values close to meat processing facilities. Clark County, Illinois, did a study on 50 residential homes close to a processing plant. They found 30% loss in property value if it was located within a 1/2 mile, 25% loss on 3/4 mile, and 20% reduction on 1 mile. North Carolina actually did 3 studies, and they found a negative impact on residential property values on all 3 studies. Iowa did a study on homes located near meatpacking facilities and found that the property values fell 40%. If they were located within a half a mile, 30% 1 mile, 20% 1.5 miles, and 10% at 2 miles. The Indiana General Assembly passed a bill prohibiting the building of a meat processing plant within 1 mile of any residential housing. The representative who supported that bill said that he wanted the industry to grow in Indiana, but the growth needed to happen while having respect for our neighbors. All I'm asking tonight is that the board show that same respect for our neighbors as a representative in Indiana did for his. These people are your neighbors. We're not against a meat packing facility. We only want it to be built far enough away that it will not affect negatively our property value or our current way of life. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hollowell.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Timmons.
That's okay.
I'm not gonna say anything to start my time.
No. Not gonna start until you start talking, Bob.
Clicked on the trigger on time, I apologize. The Dallas, I live in the lunch or something.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good
And
evening.
thank you for allowing us to be here, and thank you for your presentation. It was informative. But I've gone through this, these conditions, proposed conditions that Robbie read earlier, and after reviewing the drawings and his entire package, I have a few more questions and a few more items here that needs further discussion. One, does the operation of the incinerator, what about for particulate? I understand what you just said earlier. Smoke, odor, what about startup, ash disposal? What happens to that? Where is it disposed of? Are animals being kept overnight? How many? What do you do with them? The drawings and the description of the operation do not indicate any provisions for cleaning and disposal of the waste from the holding pens. How is the animal waste from the holding pens disposed? How is it washed down? Where is the water going? We were told earlier that it just shoveled out. Where does it go? In a pile? That's unacceptable. Has the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, VDAC, been notified and agreed to this facility at its current location? Facility operations must continually be regulated by and under the control of USDA, EPA, DEQ, or VDAC, whichever one is responsible, including inspections, certifications, regulations, and valid permit. If the operator or permittee and/or owner opts out or fails to comply with these standards or requirements, the special use permit will be revoked. No construction should begin until the receipt of a USDA certification or EPA, DEQ, or VDAC approvals and submitted to the county for review. The permittee is to provide and maintain screening on the east and west properties at a minimum of 1,000 feet to protect the neighbors. No lagoons, holding ponds, sediment ponds, or spray fields will be allowed. The location of the facility should be a minimum of 1,000 feet off the Darlington Heights Road right-of-way. The septic tank or drain field for human waste is not indicated on the drawings. How is this waste disposed of? How is the waste from the processing areas handled? The current design indicates this waste is piped into the human waste system. Is this allowed by the state code or the health department? How is the ash from the incinerator disposed of? Is it put out on the field or trucked off? That answer is not in these documents. The design that has been provided is not complete, is concept only. No septic tank, no wash down, no drainage for holding pens, no provisions for separation of processing waste and human waste, and the blood from the cooler and freezer drains into the septic system. No proof of contract for hauling and receipt of and disposal of the blood, ash, or animal waste. No verification or proof of that USDA, DEQ, EPA, or VDAC has agreed to this facility. Has the county investigated the negative impact on property values for the adjoining and adjacent properties and the reduction of the property taxes to the county within a 3-mile radius of this facility? The site plan does not indicate the facility being fenced to prevent animals from escaping. Is there sufficient water for the commercial well that will be required? No dumping or burying of any waste should be allowed on the property. Does the site perk? How many animals will be processed each day? Has the permittee provided any economic statement of fundings for the financing for the facility? What is the revenue for the county that the county is anticipating from this facility? Is the county offering any incentives? Has the IDA been approached to assist in locating this facility in an industrial park? As you were informed earlier today, earlier in this meeting, this is an industrial facility and not one entitled by right.
Mr. Timmons, excuse me, I'm going to give you one more minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
I won't use that.
Okay.
What we ask is this board work with the permittee to locate this facility in an industrial area and not in a residential area. And there's a committee from our neighborhood out there is willing to meet and work with the permittee to help him find a place. We agree that this facility is good. It's just not good in a residential area. We have other parts of the county, other properties in here that are located, that are already in an industrial facility that can be made available. And we should be able to work together as a group to make this facility happen and take it out of a residential area. And that's the problem that we're having out there, is it's residential and not an industrial. It's an industrial park, not entitled as property.
Thank you, Mr. Timmons.
Madam Chair, the next speaker we have listed is Casey Washington, and I believe via phone.
Casey Washington? Thank you, Ms. Washington.
Next speaker is Liz Garrison. Ms. Garrison? I'm not sure. We'll come back. Larry Hollowell?
He's already spoke.
Marion Ashworth?
1 minute, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Marion Ashworth, and I live in the Darlington Heights area, almost directly across from where they're going to be trying to build this meat processing plant. And I'm here to please beg that you do not approve this.
Excuse me, I'm having a problem hearing you. Could you maybe get closer to that or
Sorry.
take your mask off?
Yes.
One of the two.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are they going to reset that time?
Excuse me, Trey, could you reset that, please?
Please. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. If you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I live almost directly across from where they're going to be building this meat processing plant, and I beg to please do not approve this. I actually used to live next to a farmer who had chickens, and the smell was every once in a while, we'd get a smell and it wasn't too bad. And then one day he came to me and he said that he was thinking about raising hogs. And he downplayed it. He acted like he was going to raise them and have them slaughtered, and it was like for his family. And next thing I know, they start building 3 humongous buildings, and it smelled so bad. Trucks would keep coming back and forth constantly. When they unloaded those pigs, they squealed and hollered and screamed. It was awful. From that day when they put those pigs in there, I could no longer open my windows, and it smelled so bad, and it lingered.
Thank you, Ms. Atsworth.
Thank
And
you.
the odor has been addressed before. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
David Rohr.
Good evening. My name is David Rohr. I live at 518 Pine Knoll Drive in Rice, Virginia. And I'm here in support of the slaughterhouse. My main reasons are I think it will add some tax revenue to the county. I know it'll provide some jobs with the employees that'll be hired. And my biggest plus, I think, is it's going to offer local farmers the ability to bring their meat to the facility and sell it in stores, and it'll give consumers the ability to go to have another source of meat instead of Food Line or some of the local stores, and I just think it's a good thing. That's all I have.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Joe Carson.
Good evening, I'm Joe Carson, 655 Heights School Road, so very close, in Darlington Heights, Virginia. So I'm very close, I'm speaking in support. A lot of the points I was going to cover have already been covered. I think it offers a real opportunity, particularly to farmers. I think there's a real irony that a lot of farmers will talk your ear off about how they don't make any money with beef, and they look at something like this and they don't want it. I spent a lot of time in Houston, and there's something interesting cities love to do, which is put these facilities, we can't have it in our nice neighborhood. We have to sort of shove it somewhere. And so I don't think we're above having a facility like this. I think it's been described in a way that will limit the amount of kind of both sight and smell in the senses. And I think in some ways, keeping it within proximity to farmers makes a lot more sense than in 6 months, you'll have a ton of people here saying they don't want cattle farmers coming down their road in Farmville. So
Thank you, Mr. Carson.
thank you.
Next speaker is Joe Ellen Peterson.
Good evening. My name is Joellen Peterson. I live at 73 High Hill Road, which I think it's important to say that is often called Slaughterhouse Road by the people who know it best, and it's the best place to live. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I am here as a small farmer, a very small farmer, who raises beautiful animals, but loses money on those animals because I have to sell them on the hoof. I also have a booth at the Farmers Market in Farmville, Virginia, and financially, it's not worth it for me to keep that booth if I can't sell my meat there. This facility would allow me to sell my meat there. So I am strongly in support of this USDA facility. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson.
Next speaker, Jeannie Ann Perry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. I will tell you that I'm Janine Perry, and I live on 700 Germantown Road, so I do not live in the Darlington Heights area. I am here not because I know about meatpacking facilities. I trust the boards and the different companies that are different organizations that are approving that to do that work. I just wanted to be here as a reference support, a personal support. I know people well, it's part of my job, and I do believe that the petitioner in this case is an honest, hardworking entrepreneur. I think he wants to do a really good job for our community, bring tax money for our community, jobs to our community. And I also know that he will make the correct decisions and perhaps work with people that need to be worked with. So I'm just really here as a character reference and as a community person who would really love to have access to good meat because I've given up on beef. It's just hard to get. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. Perry.
Madam Chair, that's all the names I have listed on the sign-up sheet.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak? We'll give you 1 minute with new information. Yes, please.
Was it one we skipped over a while ago?
Liz Garrison.
Who was
Yeah.
Liz Garrison.
One more, I think.
She was the one lady who was part of the redistricting committee, I believe. I haven't seen her come back, but I'll let Sarah know.
Hello, my name is Donna Thaxton, and I do live in Darlington Heights. And I noticed that the applicant made the comment that if you had a cow, that you could bring that cow in the night before it was processed the next morning. Having lived on a farm for about 52 years, you take one cow away from the herd and put it in a holding pen, that cow is going to scream all night. So there will be a noise factor that affects the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thaxton. Any others? No other? The public hearing is now closed. Does staff have anything they would like to add or clarify? Anybody? Yes, Mr. Love.
Yes, there were some comments made about animal waste and human waste, and Supervisor Gillum had asked that a couple days ago, and I reached out to Paul Freed. Human waste, and like the applicant said, wash water will go in a septic system. The animal waste will go in the tank or be an incinerator. It has to be separated, so I did want to make that clarification to you all. And also the comments about the Planning Commission public hearing. It was properly advertised. Adjoining letters were sent, and the sign has been out there since the Planning Commission, 10 days prior to the Planning Commission, continuous on till tonight.
Are those letters sent out certified or just?
State law changed on that. They're sent out first-class mail, and I do an affidavit on the date that I sent that and put it in the file.
I've got several comments. Based on the pictures that Dallas provided and so forth, I think the notification in the area was extremely poor. It doesn't say, for instance, what is changing, what's the possibility of going in there. It's just that, call this number. There's some things that are pending. In listening to the people, which I did closely, I'd say it's overwhelming the people that are opposed to it. the situation as I look at the positives of it, and the positives to me are it provides some jobs, but the negatives are overwhelming against it. In other words, we would actually lose on it as a county, while we're certainly looking for economic development. With the loss of revenue from the housing and so forth in the area, it sounds like a net losing thing to us from a profit standpoint, and it's certainly making the homeowners unhappy. So I personally would be opposed to it. I think it should go to an industrial area. I understand that it can be allowed in agricultural zoning, but not by right.
Mr. Love, may I ask a question? On the signs, is that information usually put on all signs? Who prepares the signs?
Those signs are stock signs we have. I actually have one next door. I can bring it in and show it to you. It says public hearing. It doesn't say what the public hearing topic is, and it has the county main line. on
So when there's a public hearing, that sign is put out?
10 days prior to the first public hearing, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I personally put that sign out, and I always put it out of VDOT right away because they will come and remove those signs.
Right.
In their right of way. I put it at the top of ditch facing the highway, and I step back and take a picture of it at that point. But I do have a sign next door if you want to see the size of the sign.
And I can see that later.
Okay.
In reference to the sign, I must say, I'd gotten some calls or whatever. I saw the sign and I saw the number. And what I did was pull over on the side of the road. I didn't want to, and it happened to have been snow, a lot of snow on the road that day. So I pulled off on the opposite side of the road because I knew the people who lived there before. And I got out, looked at the sign and walked around. So it was visible. And I wanted to see more. That's why I pulled off to see it. Thank you.
In conversation on the sign, I think it needs to be larger. Like comments were made, if you're traveling 40, 45 miles an hour, you got to do the same thing you did. You got to pull off on
Right.
somebody else's property. You can't be stopping in the road, you get run over. But a larger sign maybe, and put it perpendicular to the road rather than parallel to the road. Give somebody time to slow down and actually read what it says.
Have a two-sided sign.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's
So you
right.
can see it.
It wasn't a two-sided sign, it was just parallel to the road instead of turning 90.
Oh,
Right.
Instead of looking sideways, so you could see it coming and going, it's faced this way, so you only see the end.
See it when you
rather
go.
than the road. That's not clearly visible.
But I do think the sign needs to be larger.
I wouldn't know. State law does not require the sign. That's something that Prince Edward County has in its ordinance above what state code requires. Doesn't mean we can't change our practices or make it a 4x8 sign. We can make it larger if we want. But the signage is not something that was required by the state, but something that Prince Edward does to try to make sure that it's maybe somebody down the road who is not an adjacent property owner is able to get notice of the public hearing.
Madam Chair, another comment. In listening to what everybody's saying, I think Bob made a good valid point. And whatever we want to do, I'm sure we can vote on it. But I think between these people, y'all get together, talk about it. I believe that would be a wonderful thing.
Excuse me, Lou. Now, when you said these people, what people are you talking about?
Bob and the people petitioned for the 5 slaughterhouse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
If you could give table this for 30 days, give me a chance to talk with them, and let's talk with Doug and bring him into the conversation, let's see if we can't find a better location.
Yeah. If that is agreeable.
And doing that and keep harmony in our community, because our community now is in an uproar about this, and putting this industrial facility in a residential area that's not allowed by right. And that's just a fact on this. Should not go there. We're not opposed to the facility. I think this is great. I really do. But I don't think it
Good evening, and thank you for to be able to respond. So initially, we wanted to put this plant in an industrial zone. However, the two areas in the county that are zoned industrial are cost prohibitive. The owner of the industrial zone wants $100,000 an acre, and he's not willing to put it into smaller pieces that we can afford. We're a small family. We came up in this county. We pay taxes in this county. We've been in this county for over 40 years. Our children are married. We live in this county. We are not some mega conglomerate that comes from out of state and says, I want Darlington Heights. I want that spot. That's not the case. We happen to own a piece of land in Darlington Heights. It's an extension of our farm. We just want to build a facility on our farm. And I can promise you here tonight that this facility will not be an eyesore to the community. We will not run a shim-sham operation. It will be clean, it will be neat and tidy, and very professional. Thank you.
Thank you for comment.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Oh, yes, David.
I guess I'll, just a quick, probably a short speech to each and every one. Dallas, to begin with, the code that you brought out and signed, I'm in agreement with the fact that it could be hard to see. Yet, as Doug brought up, it's not a state code, it's just kind of a county thing. We're somewhat taken away from the fact that it's, as an individual, it's up to us to do our due diligence when we see something, do something right. I'm in agreement with it. I'm in agreement with it. Probably should be done better, and it's something that the county needs to look at. With Marshall, I appreciate the fact that you have done your due diligence, and I appreciate the fact that you sat on one of the boards. If you want to talk about tax devaluation, my land joins the county landfill, which each one of you all revenue. If that were true, then my place should have been devalued this time because my land joins the county landfill. It joins it, not down the road. It joins it. So.
Did you make a request?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can go into that later, but that's not at this point.
You never showed up at the meeting, you never came to the meeting.
You're exactly correct, because Robbie Love said that he presented it, and that's where I'll leave that.
Robbie doesn't present it, you got to present
The fact of the matter is that the devaluation should have, if that's true, then it should have been. That's where I'm going. Mr. Hollowell, what you used was University of Missouri and University of Washington, and those were not local plants, they were large plants. Just to set that straight, I want everyone to know that we're playing on a level playing field. I don't want something brought out that's not, it is or it isn't. Those were somewhat skewed, not from your point, they're skewed from our view in the fact that that's talking about a large plant, it's not talking about a small individual, or even a 50 head or less, or 100 head or less. Those are in excess of 340 head units, just so that the board knows and everyone else knows, to make this a level playing field. And Bob brought up some great points with provisions that need to be added, with the ones that the Planning Commission has already brought. I think there are 18 things there. I think there's one of them that even I would say is absolutely unattainable. And that's number 4. It's impossible to guarantee that. If I were to vote either way, I would have to ask that provision be changed because it's absolutely unattainable. That's just something. I'm not against this facility. I certainly would be for it. I'm not against the community there. I actually own cattle in a farm that almost joins that facility. So I know all the things that there are about it. With that said, I agree with Lou that if we could table this, I think it would give each of us, and I think that it would give the community the time to talk about it and possibly remedy some of the issues that we have. I realize that there are some issues here. There are some things that probably need to be worked out. And that's all I've got to say, Mr. Bride.
Okay.
If I could just address one thing you
If Ms. Bride,
can I just say something?
Yes, Mr. Tinsley.
Okay, thank you. I didn't get to finish my presentation because I got a little long-winded, I'm sorry. But the reason I was stating all of these things that were not done by code, Prince Edward County's code, was the fact that when they held this public meeting, how many people showed up?
We had one person show up for it, and the applicant, his family.
So, if you hold a public meeting and only 3 people show up, what does that tell you? When that public hearing is announced and spread the word, look at what you get. If it had been done properly, in my mind, I know I would have been there, and look at all the people that showed up tonight.
And we appreciate you being here.
And so my challenge to the Board of Supervisors is to change the system so that public can be more easily aware of what's going on. That was my whole issue.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, we need to change that.
I'm just saying that it was done properly according to what it is.
Exactly.
Yes, we may need to change it.
It was not clearly visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I yield the floor.
thank you.
Didn't say your fault.
Well, at this time, I would like to entertain a motion. Mr. Emmett, would you like to make that motion?
I
What
would make a
extend it?
motion to table this for 30 days.
Just clarify maybe to the March 8th meeting,
I was
that
going
work?
to say to the March 8th meeting.
Yes, sir.
At least 30 days or until our next meeting.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
I'll second.
Second. Ms. Cooper Jones?
Yes, but can I make a statement
Sure.
first? Well, I am definitely pro for Mr. Sabor. The reason being is I think he did a great job of researching, investigating, taking the time to purchase land, or if he already owned it or whatever. And I think every man has a right to a business. It went before the planning commission, it was approved, and yes, there's a lot of opposition, but by the same time, this man has a right, he has a family, and he should be able to have a business as well. And I was surely ticked, I'm not even gonna say all the words that I could say, out at some of the comments that I received. When I first heard about this, I was here at the grand jury. The man asked me about a Muslim meat packing company. I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. It should have been a meat packing plant, period. Muslim should have never been a part of that word. Should not have been the conversation. Had a young man to call me on the phone and he made a statement that he wasn't a citizen. Who are you to tell this man that he's not a citizen? Yes, I am heated about it because I feel just like Mitch McConnell saying, African Americans are not, they are voting almost as much as Americans are now. And I'm gonna tell you, that kind of attitude is poisoning in Prince Edward County. Patty Cooper Jones is not gonna sit back and be a part of it. I don't care what your race, your ethnicity, you have a right to own a business and you have a right to live and survive in this county because you pay taxes just like everybody else. And yes, I will table, but I'm in full support.
Thank you, Ms. Patty Cooper Jones. And I listened to Ms. Patty Cooper Jones, and I agree. I'm in support, but I'm willing to go for 30 days of the next meeting with further discussion. We iron out some things, and we go from there. Mr. Gillum?
I go for the 30 days.
Ms. Beverly?
Yes.
Okay, Jim?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Bobby? Thank you, Bobby.
And the way the Kentucky building's close to the road, I wonder if you consider moving it back further off the road. There,
Oh, yes, Bobby.
yeah, and I vote for Taylor.
Okay, and that can be a part of the discussion.
30-day discussion, right?
Pardon me?
That can be part of that.
Right, that's what I just said, yes. Okay?
Who's that?
The motion carries, thank you. Again, thanks for all who attended, thanks for your comments, and thanks for doing this in an orderly fashion. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll take about 2 minutes and then we'll move on with the agenda.
Thank you. Anybody want anything to drink? Anybody want anything to drink?
No, no,
You
ma'am.
good? You good?
At this time, we have Highway Matters.
Mr. Frederick is in Cumberland tonight and unable to be here. If anybody has any issues with state highway system, I'd be happy to forward those comments along.
Got a phone call yesterday, Joe, about 7 p.m. Said that it was in bad shape, which we know is the problem there. And I also got a call on Isham Road.
Isham.
If you would ask about this, though, please. Both of those are dirt roads, so it's, I'm sure it's bad weather, just
Freezing thawing.
freezing cold, maintenance, we just time to check them because the people are calling.
Okay. Anything else?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. Levi Road and Corner Road, Mr. Frederick need to get back with me, give me an update. I think Ms. Puckett was supposed to have contacted him, Doug.
Okay.
But Levi Road, Corner Road, and also Twin Bridges, the S curves, have chevrons been installed. Again, he was supposed to get back with me on those.
Okay.
Doug, did you check with him on the signs being down at Heights?
I did. I sent him a picture. He said they would try to get to it this week, and I know our guys will, as soon as we get signs in, and they'll get out there and take care of them as well.
Thank you.
I don't know what the problem is, but their signs broke over and cut off everywhere today.
Snow, I'm sure.
Yeah, some of them are,
Wow.
we think some of them may be people wanting the metal for
Scrap metal.
scrap.
I saw fire today, so I need to really-
Saul's all, it's all right off.
Of all things. Never would have thought that.
I have a concern, and Supervisor Townsend, I'm surprised you didn't
Doing
mention,
that logging over on Mount Pleasant.
there you go.
Oh, I ain't forgot that. I just
Oh,
said-
but you didn't bring it up. That road is awful.
I'm not gonna bring it up, because see, they not, once they finish cutting, they gonna have to repave that all together.
Exactly. Mount Pleasant Road.
They got a lot more cutting,
Jessica, he
timber
was come
cutting
out
to
there.
do.
They're towing that road
They're
up.
turning it on to pieces.
And don't have a snow. I mean, when it snowed, those people couldn't even pass on the edges of that road because of those trucks. They turned that road up.
When during all that inclement weather, they still ran.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you know that's crazy. Ludicrous.
And I want to report Mill Creek Road. Constituents have called and called VDOT. Nobody has returned the call. They are working to pave that road, and I think they're supposed to finish it like the spring or whatever. But I got stuck on that road today. I work with a student. And they have made the ditches so deep. If I would have gone in that ditch, somebody from VDOT would have to come and pull me out. I mean, it is terrible. The road is muddy. You can hardly make it back up the hill. Gravel or something needs to be on that road. It's not gonna make it until they pave it in the spring. And like I said, many constituents on that road have called, and nothing has been done about it.
I will forward those comments along and see if we get a response.
Thank you. Okay, is that it for transportation? Next on the agenda, the Sheriff's Office purchase of new vehicles. Mr. Stanley.
Madam Chairman, I've been working with the Sheriff's Office to replace 2 vehicles lost the past year to wrecks and 2 additional vehicles to replace high-mileage vehicles for road use. The older high-mileage vehicles would be rotated to civil process or another use within the department. Major Wilmoth has provided information in the packet there on disposition of the vehicles that are being replaced. The proposed replacement vehicle is a 2021 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive to be purchased off of state contract. The total cost for the 4 Interceptors is $154,748.80. Upfit for each vehicle, including the cost to install equipment, lights, light bars, radios, et cetera, as well as graphics, would cost an additional $67,856.98. In addition, the cost to equip the vehicles with radios from Motorola is $43,169.80. Radar would need to be included a cost of $48,887.60, and router antennas for $4,800. The sheriff's vehicle budget for FY 21-22 totals $165,000. I'd ask the sheriff to look at lease purchase option for vehicles to keep us within budget and try to build a rotation. My previous locality, we got to the point, I used to get frustrated when we had the sheriff come in, he'd ask for 12 vehicles one year, the next year asked for 2, then asked for 6. And I said, let's get into a rotation where we're replacing, 4, 5, 6 vehicles every year, so we don't have this big swing where I have to come out of pocket with a lot of money. So sometimes doing it, say, on a 3 or 4 year lease purchase cycle, building that money into the budget and then being able to replace them is a lot more uniform for a budget standpoint. Major Wilmuth was able to get 3, 4, and 5 year lease purchase estimates from Ford Motor Credit, but their interest rate's 6.2%, which I feel is awful high. I talked with VML VACO, that's the combined Virginia Municipal League, Virginia Association of Counties. They have a finance arm about leasing options, and they provided an estimate. Right now, they say about 2%. Could be lower, but it depends on when you actually go to close. Again, final cost would be confirmed at closing. We took that option. If we go the leasing route, I'd say do it in 3 years. Let's go ahead and get them paid off. And again, we'll try to build some additional vehicles in the sheriff's budget. They also provided an option. We can include the financing of the landfill compactor, the $180,000 piece in that as well. Now, we've got some money sitting over in the landfill fund that we can use to pay it off, or we could try to pay it off with lease financing as part of the budget. So we've got a couple different options. Again, the total vehicle, the outright purchase is $275,463. We've got $165,000 in the budget. Ford Motor Credit wouldn't do the total cost. You still have the radios outside of that. VML VACO, they would wrap the entire purchase cost, radios, antennas, everything into a 3-year, say 3, 4, or 5 year deal. For 3 year, it would cost us about a little over $97,000 a year for 3 years to do the lease purchase. So really, we've got the cash in the bank that we can afford it, but I wanted to have the lease purchase options. If we did the straight out purchase, I would, again, get with the sheriff next year and as we look at what replacement needs are to maybe go back and look at the lease. But I'm happy, I've got a lot of information here, happy to have that discussion. Sheriff, anything that I'm missing?
Thank you, Major William, for working hard on, the best result. Everything's just going on. Of course, we gotta have vehicles to operate. And the problem is, with the equipment is, if you, 3 or 4 years, you get new vehicles, and none of your equipment will fit in the new vehicle. So that's what you're doing, you have to buy new equipment, you have to get new parts.
But you end up, the cost is about $70,000 a pop by the time you detail them out, add the equipment, radios, everything else.
Like you said, that price is for 21, we're not asking for 22, that'd be like $20,000 more.
What do you do, surplus the old equipment?
Doug?
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about doing 2 a year now? 3 a year?
Well,
What-
I think if we can get through this 4, you think 2 a year after this moving forward, Sheriff?
Certainly try to make it work.
Yeah.
Start with the 4 and then do.
So you're talking about, $100,000 more outside of what you already budgeted?
Well, yeah, if you're paying straight out
Paying them
cash,
all,
yes.
Because you budgeted 260, you budgeted 165, and 265 will pay, get all 3 of them.
I think the original budget, we had asked for 3.
Mhm.
We didn't know we were gonna lose the 4th one, our total loss crash.
Well, I know this, that if we if we did lease purchase for 3 years, we can cover the 4, and we could at least pick up another 2 in next year's budget under the existing 165,000.
Did we recoup anything from the crash on insurance?
I think we used that to buy a used vehicle, didn't we, Sheriff? Yeah.
Any other discussion?
So are we gonna do, are we looking at lease purchase or just buy them straight out?
I think that's the $275,000 question. I think,
I think you're bad straight out, I'm gonna tell you why. If you lease it, you got 3 years, you're gonna pay for that, next year you come back for 2 more, you're gonna still wind up having to buy it again, 2 more. If, I would recommend, my motion was thinking would be, just go ahead and purchase them. Yeah. And you save the interest too, you save your interest rate.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a motion.
Okay.
Jerry made it. I'll second.
The motion and second. Patty?
Yes.
Pride? Yes. Lou?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
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 Bobby? Bobby? Are you with us, Bobby?
He's
Okay,
milking those cows.
Dr. Pryor, he should all say upfit to add everything else needs on there.
yeah, to purchase and upfit as outlined,
Right, okay.
just to clarify.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Bobby spoke up, he said.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll need to come back at some point for a budget amendment, but just, we've got we're about 100, 110 short. We'll take care of it at some
Okay.
point.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, citizen volunteer vacancy, Piedmont Regional Jail Authority Board. Sarah.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I think as most of you are aware, Mr. Jimmy Garnett has resigned, but I think we could say retired from his position on the jail board. He has served since 1988, which is I think an extraordinary commitment of public service to the citizens of this county by Mr. Garnett. At this point, the board will wish to choose to fill the vacancy, and you have 2 choices. You can fill that vacancy with a member of the Board of Supervisors because it is a citizen position, or you can choose to consider advertising the position for a citizen volunteer applicant. So it would be up to the board's pleasure as to which path you choose to fill that vacancy. Those are your choices.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Garnett's resignation or retirement was effective immediately. So at the moment, that seat is vacant. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes.
Townsend?
Okay.
I would ask if there is any board member that's interested in being on the jail board.
I would be interested.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we just make the recommendation to David?
I think the board could act to appoint Mr. Emmert with a motion and a second and a vote.
Okay.
I would move to appoint Mr. Emmert to the jail board.
Also,
Okay, Patty, yes. Oh,
Yes.
Jesse, yes.
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 Abstain.
Okay. Okay. Bobby? Okay, so Mr. David Emmert. Congratulations. Thank you, Sarah.
Supervisor Townsend, he must have heard what a good Christmas feed y'all put on out.
And I understand, Mr. Sandy, that he's going to be recognized at a later time.
Yeah.
We'll have Mr. Garnett back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the courthouse chiller replacement.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this project was part of our capital improvement plan, but the existing chiller here at the courthouse was installed in 1997. Since then, 2 of the 3 compressors have been replaced. 24 years plus is exceeding the life expectancy of the equipment, about 15 to 20. And planned replacement would cause less disruption in the daily operation of the courthouse. and be less costly than if we had to go through an emergency replacement later. The chiller serves the whole 7 floors, 3 floors north, 4 floors south of the courthouse. Again, it's getting more difficult to find replacement parts because of the age. The county engaged mostly architects to design specifications for the replacement chiller. The original plan was to replace it outside of cooling season, but due to manufacturing delays brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, the lead time will push the replacement into the summer of 2022. Due to the adjusted timing, it will require us to have a temporary chiller in place out in the parking lot to provide cooling. With the issues we've had over the past couple of years with it and the ability to obtain parts, we don't feel we should wait really any longer. I know Randy's been concerned about it breaking down. We had a couple of issues last year where we had 80-degree portions of the building and certainly lots of complaints. The original estimate from 2020 that was included in the CIP was $230,000. That was based on the estimate provided by a vendor prior to the manufacturing impacts of the pandemic and didn't include crane costs and the temporary chiller for a month of the changeover. In the 2021-22 budget, we included $230,000, but because it's going to break across into next fiscal year, July 1, we should be able to cover that with the budget for next year as well. We did put in $608,000 in that capital improvement budget line, which we've got a couple projects, including the courthouse lawn and the compactor site at Rice will be coming out of that. But we received a total of 5 bids. Bids range from low of $410,825 to a high of $439,394. We're talking about less than a 10% spread. That's pretty good. That's pretty good bids. Mosley has reviewed the bids and a recommendation letter from them is included in the packet. Properties Committee reviewed at their meeting on February 1, and they unanimously recommended approval of the project and approval of the award of bid as outlined. And the sample motions in the packet.
Okay. Mrs. Fielder of the body.
I make a motion, we did discuss this in our meeting and realized it was one of those things that's gonna have to be done, and it looks like everything's going up, we're better off wanting to get it done before the heat, before it goes up anymore. So my motion is to go ahead and get the bid out in place.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and second that we do this, but Ms. Patty?
Yes.
All right, yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Tim? Jerry?
Yes.
David? And Bobby? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda, the AFID grant, cannery boiler replacement.
Yes, ma'am. So while we're talking about things that are old and worn out, the cannery boiler was installed in 1972.
Oh, wow.
So I think it may be the only thing that surpasses Jimmy Garnett's years of service on the jail board. But it is 49 years old, and again, Randy is challenged quite often to keep it operational. The repair man was here last week fixing a water leak. We know that that there is a significant excess venting of steam, and that we are going through fuel a lot. And so the board had authorized county staff with the assistance of the CRC to pursue the AFID grant through the Virginia Department of Agriculture. We were awarded the funds of $25,000, and as was with the chiller, when the price estimate was received pre-pandemic, it was about $60,000. It is now about twice that. So we're probably looking in the neighborhood of $120,000 to $125,000. So the board would need to consider whether it wishes to accept the $25,000 AFID grant and consider with the project, knowing what the price differential is. The one thing that we will tell you that we are not confident about is the sustainability of the cannery through the summer without, a new boiler, because it is a 12 to 14-week lead time. So if the boiler fails, it could shut down the cannery for an entire growing season, which is why we're anxious to go ahead and, try and get it ordered and see if we can get it in on the front end of the season versus risking failure and losing a season. So with that, the board tonight would authorize us to issue an invitation for bid so that we can go out just like we did with the chiller and get the exact prices, and we would bring those back to you, we hope at the March board meeting, so that you could act at that time with the actual final prices in hand.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's so moved and second that we proceed with this replacement. Patty?
Yes.
Pride, yes. Mr. Gillum?
Is this for the replacement or you wait for bids?
This is to go out for bid.
For bids, yes.
You're authorizing us to issue an invitation for
Right.
bid to receive the actual bids, and then we'll bring those back to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Lou? Okay.
Yes.
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 Bobby? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. PPEA Legal Review Services, Mr. Stanley.
So, I would note that, we were advertising for competing proposals and we received none, so we've got the one proposal from the Prince Edward County Infrastructure LLC to consider. We've got our engineering, consultant, Panoni Engineering, working on reviewing the document. We've also, we're gonna hire legal counsel who specializes in PPA. The one firm that we had the board approve last time was Hefty Wiley & Gore. Unfortunately, they have a contract because they had just started representing the town of Crewe. And Crewe, of course, sitting across the Nottaway line, is one of those localities that is currently serving the state facilities, which we are looking at potentially serving with our water facility. Mr. Hefty recommended Sharon Pandak from Pandak and Tavis. Sharon is former county attorney from Prince William. I've worked with her a little bit in the past, and she is well versed in the PPA process, having done that for Prince William County before. She agreed to match the lump sum fee that Hefty Welding Board proposed. So at this time, again, we've got a $50,000 fee that was provided. We're spending 10 on the initial engineering. The legal aspect will carry us beyond really the initial scope through the full contract if we get that far. But we'd recommend at this point in time to accept that proposal.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
And I've worked with her on the Have you? She's
So
pretty-
moved.
she's pretty nice. Yeah.
And comes highly recommended.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she's top notch.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Patty?
Yes.
Pride, yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Joy? And Bobby? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, committee reports. Mr. Stanley.
Properties Committee, couple things we wanted to highlight. Number one, and this actually made the front page of the Marlboro Herald in color. We appreciate their help, but recycling boxes at Tractor Supply, I regret that we were saying we're gonna have to remove those. If you looked at the pictures, we tried and tried, but the residents keep dumping the trash. And what's happening is it's forcing the entire load of recyclables to get kicked over from steps. We're not, the site's unmanned, so it's really, it's on, the citizens to do the right thing, but it's not working. And we're proposing to have them removed on February 22nd. We've advertised it, it's been posted in the paper, posted on the website, and Facebook page. 2, the courthouse lawn renovation project, we're scheduled to hopefully advertise that in the spring. The Scope building, the committee has talked about it, and the reality is we either need to spend quite a bit of money to upgrade that building or we need to let it go. And I think it's a recommendation of the committee that right now, we really don't have a burning need. We've got some contractual obligations with providing some office space. We think we can take care of that in another manner, but pursuant to our policy for disposition of real property, we need to get an appraisal, and then we need to advertise it, so we're going to start with the appraisal process. County street signs, the committee authorized the county administrator to proceed with transitioning the county street signs to a sample that includes the county seal. If you want to look at a full-size version, there's one in my office. Yakutak, they've authorized me to proceed with work needed to remodel the loading dock space for Yakutak and correct some drainage issues in the rear of the building. The boiler, again, we're recommending the board accept it tonight and move forward with bidding out a replacement of the boiler. And then lastly, the animal shelter, which is our top-rated project in the CIP. We're looking to set up this spring tours of some other close-by state newer shelter facilities that may be a good example. We've got to, pick a location for the new shelter, and two, eventually get an architect to help start the design. We look at this as probably a 2-year process to get the bid in and out, but we've got to start that process somewhere, and this is kind of where we're going to start. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Any questions, any discussions? Okay. Next, we have the finance report. Cheryl Simpson.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. So I'll try to make it brief because I'm really tired and I'm ready to go home and go to bed. I hate to say that, but I'll be up early tomorrow, but probably way before any of you will be. But appropriations. So we have the first one is the volunteer fire department carryover funds. So this came from after the audit. We had the additional monies in the budget, and we'd like to transfer those back to the fire departments in the amounts that are listed. The next one is also carryover money from the schools. They had asked for this quite a ways. If you look at the packets, the letters from the schools back from October, where they requested us to transfer that money to them then, and we told them we would wait till after the audit to make sure that the money was in there, that they thought that was in there. The next one is an EDI transfer from the Department of Criminal Justice for body cameras for the Sheriff's Department, and also a donation of $2,100. So, sorry, I'm going all the way through my packet that I gave up for all this. And then the last one is a transfer from the general fund to a special projects fund. You can see the amounts that we want transferred from one account to the other, and we are working on creating those accounts.
And if I can just add, Cheryl, so one of the things we're trying to do, a number of times you have projects that you save for over multiple years. I think the traditional way is the funds flow back into the general fund, then they kind of get lost into the fund itself. What we're working with the auditors is setting up a separate special projects account, whether it was for fire equipment or whatever else. You can take that money, put it over in special projects. It's not rolling back into the general fund balance. It's earmarked for a specific project. And if you ever get to the point where you actually want to spend that money, the board's going to have to reappropriate that into the current fiscal year, which you want to spend it. So we're trying to, it's helping us financially plan for things that are maybe more expensive. One of those things that I had on the list, our jail. Regional jail, some years you don't have as many costs as you would as another year because your inmate numbers are lower. Well, it helps from a budgeting standpoint to have a little reserve specifically earmarked for the jail, so that when you do have that bad year, we've got funds we can go back into. Or if, I know we've got to replace part of the sewer system out there. And there's funds there that we can tap in without having to go get an additional appropriation from the general fund. But it'll allow us to start setting money aside, whether it's the courthouse or any other projects. But each of those will have to come to the board to be appropriated over to special projects. Also have to come from the board to take it out of there. If the board later changes its mind and wants to do something else with the money, the board can decide that as well.
Any discussion, concerns?
One little question on page 212. It's a negative mark before Rice is 10,892.52. Is that supposed to be there?
Yes, it is, and I don't remember why. This was given to me.
We talked about the schools, that 5 million.
Yeah, actually, that's coming up on the table pack. We've got an additional, so the school issue is, the schools have requested return of their unspent funds for FY '21. Of course, we had to wait till the audit was completed, which we heard tonight. So the county had 5.8, whatever, I can't remember the exact number, as far as fund balance increase. 2.7 of that was the schools. And part of that is, when you had shut down school facilities, you're not running your buses, you don't have your fuel costs, the food costs, so they had significant savings. And we'll get to it in a minute, but what they've asked for is that money be returned for capital improvements. What I'm suggesting is put that also over in special projects for school capital improvements. And then when the school system says, hey, we're ready to do the track, they get the bids, get the numbers, and come back to the board at that time and request it. So basically, it's still sitting in your savings account. It's earmarked, the schools will know it's earmarked for that purpose, but they'll submit the bids to you to actually get the final appropriation. That makes sense.
Any other discussion?
Doug, I see you got 10,000 for the county recreation there. Yeah.
That was funds that we had for the replacement of the roof
Yeah.
out in Verso.
That's right.
And so this, we're putting that over, and then we've got 10,000 this year's budget.
So they're rolling.
We'll have 20,000 to work with.
All right, that's, now, I'm good.
And Supervisor Townsend? That doesn't mean you might get that extra 10,000. Yes, sir.
Somebody got to spend it.
Well, that's true, too.
Dr. Pride,
Duly noted.
Dr. Pride, we need a motion and a second. to-
Yeah, right, I was
Thank
supposed
you.
to say that, yeah.
I make that motion, Ms. Pride.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And that's to approve all four of the budget amendments.
Right, that's what I was going to
Is
say.
that line? Okay.
Yes,
Correct.
good,
All four.
thank you. Okay, so motion's in second. Patty?
Yes.
Pride, yes. Luke?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Terry?
Yes.
David? And Bobby? Bobby? Thank you, motion carried. Okay. Economic Development and Tourism Report. Chelsea?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you
Good
for your
evening,
time.
Chelsea.
Thank you. On pages 229 and 268 of your package, you'll find my report from which I'll provide some highlights. Firstly, I want to say thank you again for your support on our application to the Virginia Economic Development Partnership's Virginia Business Ready Sites Program for the development of the HIT Park. So for that application and that grant. And so award offers for that program were announced on January 13th, and I'm pleased that the HIT Park did receive $640,000 to fund wet utility and engineering design improvements to the site. Last month, I was happy to participate in a VEDP lead generation activity, which included a business investment virtual call trip with prospects from Austin and San Antonio, Texas. And so I was able to speak to the prospect about economic development opportunities in the county as well as our community assets. So that was a good experience. I'm also continuing to work with an appraiser to get all of the IDA-owned lots appraised to better market them to prospects and potential developers. And so we should be wrapping up that process by the end of this month. Also, in my office, we've been spending a great deal of time working on tourism-related grants, so we hope to have more announcements in the spring and the summer about awards and new programming, hopefully. Also, this I guess in particular, includes planning for the submission of the VTC, so Virginia Tourism Corporation, ARPA Tourism Recovery Program spending plan to receive grant funding for tourism-related projects. And lastly, we ended our Wanderlove scavenger hunt with a gift certificate package that was presented to one lucky winner. And so that recipient received $100 worth of prizes that will allow them to enjoy a few popular restaurants here in Prince Edward County. And additionally, the Visitor Center did provide an assortment of brochures to help that recipient plan their trip back to the county. And I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Chelsea, who was the winner? Do you remember the name?
I
If you don't,
it's
that's
not
fine.
off the top of my head, but we have a Facebook post, and we're
Okay.
gonna put their name and, but yeah, off the top of my head, I don't.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yep, you're welcome. But
Appreciate
it was
that.
an out-of-town person, so that's.
Right.
That's good.
Thank you. Emergency Management Report. Trey?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Dr. Almond was here earlier, and a lot of the information that we present to you each month, she covered on, so I'll just highlight real quickly, and we'll move on. Your case count numbers are obviously in the boxes there in the beginning, and as she alluded to in her report, the numbers are declining. I'll say that, based on the charts and graphs on the Virginia Department of Health website, it's a slow decline. It's not a drop, don't think that we're dropping down to zero immediately. Based on the models I looked at today, several weeks still of that slow, gradual decline. Fingers crossed we continue that trend. Some exciting news that came out of an announcement earlier this week. Longwood has partnered with a group to do testing, not only for their students, but for the citizens of Prince Edward and surrounding areas, free of charge. It'll be in Midtown Square, weekdays, 8 to 5. PCR style testing, so it's not an immediate test, but the good thing is it's free, and it's a testing resource that will hopefully take the workload off of the hospitals for people going in there getting testing and minor illnesses and ailments type stuff like that. The home test you can get from the post office, the government's initiative to give everybody tests. You can go on USPS.gov and put your address in and your first name and last name, and usually within about 2 weeks or so, you'll get your free home test at home. And the N95 masks are available now at the participating pharmacies in our area. Unfortunately, we haven't confirmed which ones are actually participating, but hopefully, if you go to the right one, you'll be able to.
I know that CVS or somebody.
CVS. I know. Yeah, and I know we had called some and they won't give us that information on the phone, so unfortunately. On emergency services, the ER delays have been improved. I know at the height of COVID, this last spike, there was some huge delays. And it was a huge stress on healthcare, on EMS and everything. It has gotten better. Delays are significantly down now. It's back to kind of a normal kind of pace when you get to the ER. Still encouraging citizens to follow their primary care doctor's guidance, visit their primary care doctor, seek other places to get testing, and use their pharmacies, other than going to the ER and over-inundating them for just a normal COVID test or sore throat type stuff. On your next page, page 3, your call numbers, I will point out that this is the highest number that for EMS in the county. I know we took off last year, but as you can tell, 400 never hit any one of those numbers. And if you can look from 2020 to 2021, we're steadily climbing. The county's not getting slower. I know COVID plays a factor in that a little bit, but it's just the population. It's just an everyday occurrence. I know earlier when I was in the back, there was 5 active EMS calls in the county at one time. So that means there was 5 ambulances from Prince Edward or Maharon on the road at one time covering calls, which seems to be a more and more reoccurring occurrence in the county with multiple calls, multiple agencies operating. So that's the end of my report. Y'all answer any questions you may have.
Very good.
I saw one little news article and my phone rang and I didn't get to hear it about some of the home tests. The liquid or something could be hazardous. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't seen that, but I'll be glad to look into it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something in there, yeah, I'm sure there's always something. But no, I have not heard that, so.
Yeah, that was on the news last night. yeah.
Okay. I'm hoping that by the amount being as small as it is, nobody would actually try to ingest it.
Right,
but
they would
There's
know.
always that possibility. So. Well, I mean, there you go. So.
Thank you, Trey. Ms. Terry Esquire, Terry Atkins Wilson. Your report, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I only have one, and it ends up that, Sarah, we've handled it, but we did receive a certified letter about a notice about a claim, but it does involve the Prince Edward County school systems and a school bus accident. It was from Allen. Anyway, we have forwarded that on to the school board and to the insurance company, but it does relate to the, to a student, but in an accident that was on November 11th on a school bus. So, anyway, but that is the only legal notification that I have in my files at this time. Busy working with the IDA on their various projects. Hats off to Sarah Puckett and Lynette Wright and Melody Foster. Great job on this redistricting. It's a lot of work and a lot of details and a lot of, requires a lot of knowledge of the local roads and areas. And anyway, Sarah did a great job, and Lynette's been right there, helping me with code sections and talking about elections, and both very serious and very concerned about their job. And that's reassuring from a legal standpoint, that you've got those people looking for those details. So hats off, to them for that work. Anyway, if anybody has any questions, concerns, I'll be happy to address
I'm
it.
just curious, why would the firm of Allen contact you about a school situation?
Well, they addressed it to Terry Wilson, County Attorney. And it was a certified mail, and my husband showed up to get mail there, and they said, here, can you sign for this for Terry? And so he did. But
But
anyway.
is that the procedure
Well,
usually?
I have a PO box over there. Like I said, I think they were just reaching out. It's kind of like when you get ready to recover from anybody, you kind of sue everybody in the neighborhood. They're not really suing us, but they're just notifying us, and they're asking for any records that we might have.
Okay.
But we don't have any records that relate to the school. So we forwarded it on to the school, and the school's attorney, and also to the insurance company.
Okay. I was just curious.
Right, if I'm not mistaken, there's a requirement in the Code of Virginia that if you're gonna sue a local government, you have to notify them first. So that may have been their effort to cover all the bases of notification that would be required if in fact there might be a pending
Okay.
lawsuit.
Okay.
But it's pretty routine, that's why May Court handles all of that for us
And for the schools as well.
and for the schools as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are, it's a code section that they had to notify the county.
Okay. Thank you much.
Terry, before you leave, and I guess this is for Doug and everybody else, Bob Timmons brought up 5234 on Dalton Heights Road. I think that we have an ordinance that deals with that already. I know we do, and I forgot to quote it if you want to.
Let me just say, I know Mr. Love and I have talked a couple times, so it's been one of these properties, and Trey's been out there as well. Trey and Robbie go out together on those site visits. We go out, they send a letter, you get a little response, they clean up a little bit of the property, and then you go back out, and then 2 months later, Trey, right, you go out, and it's in worse shape again.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, I know the property that was in question, and it was about a 4-month process total from the time it started to end. And it did, we have pictures that progressed to the point where it was in compliance. Other than maybe some kids' toys in the yard, a trash bag or something like that, it was in compliance. Now, what it looks like now, me and Robbie already talked, we're gonna go out there tomorrow, just put eyes on it.
Yeah, I was gonna recommend that.
It did follow the process, for the county procedure that we followed.
It
Is
just,
this owned by these people or rented?
It's owned by the lady who lives in it, yes. At first, we thought it was her own property.
Some of the pictures I remember correctly, Trey, it was like bags of mulch, and they were just kind of thrown out in the yard, and just, it's not trash, they're bags of mulch, but it,
That's what I was gonna say, the ordinance I think would cover it, but if it's something that's not, just because someone doesn't like it, doesn't mean that it's not in our.
Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what I was.
There is one inoperable vehicle on the property, but that's by code.
yeah.
Right.
So it's one of those that we may not be able to address, but depending on when you go out there, it may be in violation.
Okay.
On the subject of trash, the Tractor Supply the other day, it was just piled up again beside the bins. I don't remember what day it was.
Jeff said that one of the business owners out there called him when it gets bad and they go out and shut up.
Clean up.
One of the business owners is helping them, notifying them anyway.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
I'd like to say something at this point while we're talking about the attorney. We've got the forms filled out for attorney evaluation and so forth, and I would like to get those sent out to each of the board members and whatnot, and have them returned to me, and then the personnel committee can take those forms and meet with the attorney, if that's in agreement with everybody.
Yeah, that's
And go over the evaluation form.
When would you like them back, Jim?
Hadn't thought about it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to get it done as soon as possible. Maybe if they get out, what is the Tuesday, this week, maybe 2 weeks from now, have them back. And then we'll make an appointment with Terry, and the personnel committee can sit down and with those forms and any questions and their turn for questions on, go through the evaluation with it. Is there any objection to that?
No, that's fine. Okay, county administrators report.
Madam Chair, a few things I want to hit on, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, but we did, the chair, vice chair, Supervisor Townsend, and myself were able to attend VACO Legislative Day, Richmond, February 3rd. In addition to briefings by VACO staff, we were able to visit with a number of key legislators regarding pending litigation and legislation before the General Assembly. County leaders were able to meet with their local delegation, including Delegate James Evans and Senator Mark Peake, as well as other legislators in the region, and the Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert. We thank Delegate Evans and Senator Peake for their steadfast support of issues important to our constituents, including the sales tax initiative for school capital improvements and additional funding for the Piedmont Regional Jail. We still haven't given up on the sales tax initiative. Obviously, financially, it's very important for Prince Edward. The elementary school project alone at $30 million, debt service wise, if we had to cover that with real estate taxes, we're talking about 12 cents. Hopefully, we'll see in the next week or two if Delegate Edmonds and others are able to resuscitate it or get it introduced over on the Senate side and tagged onto an existing bill. But if it doesn't work out, we'll have to reassess and see where we go. I'm still hopeful we can get the design work done. We've got financially, we've got the money to be able to do that. And I think we've got to potentially do something with the roof where it's leaking, at least to make the building better condition for our kids. I mentioned the Sandy River PPA, that we didn't receive any competing proposals. The board did hire a legal counsel, which gets us moving forward. I also have a call set up with the Department of General Services, which includes the 3 state facilities, including the geriatric hospital, behavioral health, and the Nottoway Prison, the town of Burkeville and the town of Crewe, to talk about Prince Edward providing water to that part of Nottoway. Extension Office, Aaron Small has been appointed as the new Ag and Natural Resource Extension Agent for Prince Edward County. Ms. Small replaces former Agent Kate Overby. I had the opportunity to sit on the interview panel for Ms. Small, and I think that she will serve our community well. In addition to experience in teaching ag classes in Charlotte County, she's been around agriculture her whole life, including cattle production, horse farming, and hydroponics. VDEM, Sarah and I met with Scott Davis, town manager, and members of the Virginia Department of Emergency Management with respect to the county's emergency operation plan to include town resources with the ultimate goal to have a joint town-county emergency operations plan. Prince Edward Elementary School, the school board received a total of 5 proposals for architecture services. The school board will be asking for a couple members of the board and myself to sit on a joint building committee to review the proposals. So, Madam Chair, if you'll be thinking about who you want from the board to represent the board in that, those meetings.
Well, may I just make a suggestion?
Yes,
now?
ma'am.
I suggest Mr. Gillum, who's the vice chair, and myself as the chair,
That'd be fine.
if that's okay with the board.
Fine with me.
I haven't received anything official, but I'll let you know as soon as I
Okay.
hear something.
Thank you.
Lastly, and something I want the board to give us direction on. We had a meeting with the CRC today in Timmins to talk about submitting a grant for the HIT Park through the Tobacco Commission. Basically, we would pursue a grant through the Southern Virginia program to fund engineering, design, and plans to construct an elevated water tank at the Prince Edward Heartland Innovation Technology Park. We just received a $640,000 grant from the Virginia Department of Economic Development. That can be used as a match towards the grant from the Tobacco Commission. If we're successful, we'll have to come back and get the board to vote to accept it. But the grant deadline is the first week of March before our next meeting. So if I could, Madam Chair, if I could just get a motion to authorize staff to work with the CRC to apply for grant funding for the HIT Park through the Tobacco Commission.
So moved.
Okay, moved in second. Ms. Patty?
Yes.
Oh, that's a yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. And Bobby? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Correspondence in form of a letter from Habitat for Humanity. Do you need to go over that, or?
No, it's in your packet. They had a personal note on there. We thank them they were thanking y'all for support, and it's nice they keep us informed of what they're doing.
Okay. County Administrator Stanley, anything else on your?
So we've just got the monthly reports, and then I don't think there's anything, anybody has any questions on the monthly reports.
Right.
The table pack, it's item 27, which is paid $299 in the table pack. So back in June 23rd, 2021, we received a request from the Prince Edward County Public Schools to return any unspent funds from the 2021 school year budget and to convert those into a separate capital improvement plan fund for the schools. To complete the request, we had to wait until the audit was completed. The audit shows the county's overall fund balance has increased from $13,384,103 to $19,829,603. That's an increase of $6,445,500. That's shown on page 20 of the audit. That includes this projected school surplus that's included in there of $2,779,282. That's on page 119. That's the local surplus. So that's unspent local funds for the school year. It does not include the $270,882 that we appropriated for the fire departments and the $567,23 that we moved to special projects. Pulling all those out, that would take our fund balance down to $16,218,76. We would recommend approval of the school board's request, but the funds be placed in the county special project fund. That means the funds will be set aside for the purpose designated, school capital improvements, but that the school board would come back to the board, as we talked about, to request a special appropriation for the fund for a specific purpose. With the uncertainty of the sales tax initiative with the General Assembly, it's quite likely they'll be needed for that project. And also, I know they've got the middle school track project. The track's starting to fall apart, and I know they're looking to be able to go in and repair and replace some of that. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. A copy of the original request from Dr. Johnson and Ms. Carson is in the packet as well.
Questions or concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved in second. Patty?
Yes.
Odessa, yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
David? And Bobby? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay. So that's it for the board packet. Any other concerns or
Sarah,
comments on the board? Sorry?
We've got, hold on. The 15th is just the joint finance committee, so that should be chair and vice chair. That's at 5:30 at the school board office. We've got a, it's already advertised, we've got a meeting here on the 22nd with Davenport. That'll be a preliminary budget planning meeting.
We can just recess until the 22nd at 5:30.
Okay,
That work?
that works. So I move that we recess. All those in favor? Patty?
Yes.
Odessa? Yes. Lou?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes. Yes.
David? And Bobby? Bobby? Bobby?
Bobby gone.
Bobby gone, man.
Bobby gone.
Thank you much.
All right.
Thank you.